Hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of an experiment here. So I see a lot of things mentioned in terms of being able to complete Palace of the Dead under this rule set or the other, but what if we completely screwed up our save file here and wanted to manage to get through what is kind of widely considered the hardest dungeon in the game here, using basically nothing. What I've gone ahead and done here is I've got Denim running a standard set of equipment here. He has no items, he has no spells, he has only the skills that have gotten him this far on the speed run that he was previously on. Again, standard equipment. He has no money, and he has no friends. So we are going to go ahead and take this broke bastard and find a way to, using no commands other than for Denim himself, get our way through all of this. Essentially collect all the relics all the way down to the bottom, and get ourselves Secrets of the Master, using basically nothing. So I wanted to show off some kind of weird quirks of a lot of different things going through all of this stuff here. We're going to be level capped at 32 because we're doing this as soon as it's available, which means that there's not going to be any summons or anything like that available. And yeah, let's go ahead and get this train wreck rolling. Alright, first order of business. We are going to need some people. We need some bodies to actually throw at this team. We're going to want a better team in a moment, but for now we need to be able to get through the woods. We're essentially going to be trying to get through all of Palace of the Dead using exclusively stuff that we find in the woods. Again, no shops, no crafting, none of that. While I would love to have counter poison spears, we're just going to be running standard equipment for this one, and again, literally just anything we can find in the forest. So, interesting thing about this is that you can actually recruit a variety of different units in this forest using just recruit. He was started off as a rune fencer because it is the only of those starting classes that has access to recruit. But anyway, what we're going to try to do is at the very least here, get any one of these guys on our team. So an interesting thing that you can actually do at this point is you can go around breaking props at the start here, attempting to see if you can get yourself any physical up cards to essentially allow yourself to kind of counterattack and then basic attack a unit into a recruit. This should allow you roughly in the ballpark of 20% odds to get any particular unit on your team, but this will vary. As time goes on, we might be able to go about this through other ways, and if a Beast Tamer mark drops at some point, we'll consider using that. But for the time being, we're just going to be sticking with humanoid units. I actually probably should have gone for that shrub on the left, but oh well. We're going to go ahead and move on this direction, see if we can get that Hawkman to get close, because he looks to be a rune fencer, and that is something I'd like on the team. But either way, we'll only have whatever we have. We have no items, no spells, no anything at this point, so we're starting off completely from scratch. And again, we won't be using the shop whatsoever. Additionally, I should probably point out, there will be no chariot allowed for this challenge. We can retreat, obviously since kind of running a little bit of a dicey situation right here, so we can retreat, but we can't use chariot at any point. Actually, just to show that we haven't done it yet, we've got our chariot uses at 0 right here, and this needs to remain at 0 at the end of all of this challenge here. Battle to victory ratio isn't really going to matter, because obviously we're going to want to retreat a couple of times in order to acquire more units, but either way, we're going to continue doing this until I have a team. So a couple of notes to start off with in terms of recruiting on this map right here. So it's a good idea to actually move your starting tile to the kind of center of your starting squares here, give or take. This will allow you to throw a rock over at this tile while still reaching it in case it happens to be one that you would like. And additionally, the biggest focus is usually going to be to try to get away from the griffins as much as possible. You can technically respawn this map over and over until you don't have griffins available, but there's usually going to be just enough time to be able to reach one of their forward units before anything serious happens. So usually you'll have roughly anywhere from 2 to 3 rounds to be able to get a hold of somebody, have one quick chat, and hopefully that will be enough. Okay, so a couple of quick things since last time. For one thing, I went ahead and switched Denim out here for the ice element. Basically, charms are going to be a drop from the forest anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and let them be allowed, because you can actually speed this process up dramatically by going and exploiting weaknesses. So for example, right here, we have a case where we would do 351 this way, 501 this way, 501 this way. But basically, this allows us to potentially go and get somebody to have health a lot easier, allowing us to potentially roll for that 11% or what have you. And in a case like this, where we can also make sure that they're basically getting surrounded, this will also allow us to survive one extra round, which will then additionally allow us to be able to hopefully get better odds of recruiting these guys. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it running real quick to see if maybe we can get this bird guy. We have a couple archers spawn over here, which the AI sucks at using archers, thankfully, so we don't have to worry too much about what they're going to do. Now, I say they suck at using archers, it actually is more along the lines of they don't really have the opportunity to shine in this case, because they would essentially just need a fire archer with tremendous shot, and that would kind of be the end of that. But anyway, let's go ahead and give this a little bit of a shot here. Let's see. Yeah, if we were to attack him once, he would just be toast. So we will go ahead and just go for the 23% recruit. Is this going to be enough? And there we go. We got our first guy, and we can now go ahead and retreat. Okay, so let's take a look at our new guy here. So we got a guy with a claymore as a warrior unit. I went ahead and threw Constitution on him. He comes with pincer, mighty attack, and swords. This guy's looking pretty solid as is. Came with a Xenowine and an antidote, so hopefully those will be handy down the road. Didn't come with any spells on him. You know, basic swordy, hitty guy. But the way that we're going to do this going forward is essentially we run in here, and then immediately, whenever we do this, we can take our new unit, we put them on AI, and that is simply all they can do. We cannot do anything other than set them on an AI mode. We cannot give them any commands, and we're going to see if it's actually possible to clear the entirety of POTD this way. Because I'm thinking theoretically it is, but it's going to take us a little bit of setup. Because I think everything that we need is going to be in this forest. So what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to set him up as a defender, and we'll go ahead and leave him as that for the time being. I'm not seeing anything particularly promising on this map. We're going to try to go for that bird over there on the right, but either way, I will now proceed to try and get an entire team this way, which yeah, we're actually looking to attempt to clear 3 maps. So we're looking to clear this one, we're looking to clear the one right above it with all the dragons, and then from there we're looking to clear the one with the skeletons and all of that sort of thing. Now, the thing is, we can't clear the map with all the skeletons and such because we currently do not have the firepower to do so. For that one, it is ideal to go in with an exorcist, which we cannot currently access, but we'll kind of get to that as we'll get to it. I'll take a quick short move right here. Unfortunately, they're going to take our physical card, and unfortunately, they're our weakness, so this actually might be a little bit dangerous. But again, we cannot change their classes. We can't really do anything other than just kind of use the units that we found. We can take stuff off them, put stuff on them as far as we get. But yeah, this is going to be kind of our whole shtick going forward. I have no idea exactly how this is going to turn out, but it's going to be pretty darn fun, I know that much. Okay, so just from a basic attack, it's going to give us incredibly low odds to actually recruit somebody. Never say never, obviously, especially now that we have somebody else to run distraction in the background. This does give us potentially a couple of rounds to be able to pull off something more impressive. But from here, we try to get ourselves an army of birds, at which point we will then be able to go through and carve through the army of dragons, at which point we'll see if maybe the AI will be able to deal with the skeletons that are showing up in the next map without too much difficulty. I'm assuming they'll probably end up getting stuck, but we don't know for sure. And then from there we'll be able to get kind of our forever team, as it were, because the Feral Shore is just off of that map over there, which will then allow us to gain access to a bit better units. But either way, we'll get to that when we get to it. Let's go ahead and throw one attempt at this guy before we get gobbled up by these birds. Let's see, we've got availabilities for a finisher, so we might as well go for it. And we got the stumble, and we got an 8%, and there's almost no way that's gonna roll. And sure enough, whatever, we will now retreat before we get gobbled. So I will continue on once we have the rest of the team. Alright, we got a second guy here. This one was a wizard, came in with 2 magic leaves, which we'll go ahead and take off him for the time being. Had meditate and cudgels. We're going to go ahead and throw in Gulf and conserve our T on him on there for good measure. He's got paralytic wave, which we'll go ahead and take off because the MP can't use that, or the AI, sorry, can't use that. I've got Drain Mind, which we'll go ahead and move over here a little bit. Got his Thunder Flare, got his Lightning Bow, and he's all good to go from here. Unfortunately, none of these are particularly stuff we'll necessarily make a whole lot of use of, but though I am thinking I'll probably take Lightning Bow off him later, just to have something for Denim to throw out there, but we're going to continue on. Okay, so got a few more. So at this point we also got an Archer, and we also got a Beast Tamer. yeah, Beast Tamer guy came with 1 extra heal item. We're just going to go ahead and take this off him. We got a couple extra drops and things like that. Just put Repel Beast on this guy. Just gave her Engulf and Eagle Eye, as well as Tremendous Shot instead of just Engulf. Took out Dull Bind, because honestly she should just be taking regular shots instead for the time being, and then switched in Brimstone Hail. And then there we go. We're actually almost up to a full party at this point. Which actually a little bit of a funny note that I didn't realize up till now. Deploy limit is actually 8 on this map as opposed to the 6 that it was in the PSP version. Actually never noticed that. Anyway, so at this point, realistically, we're just going to probably end up accidentally curb stomping through this map, and then we'll just move on to the next one. There's not really too much else that we particularly need to grab here. Yeah, I was thinking to grab one of the clerics, but realistically we don't need it for the time being. Like, if we can't rush through, then we're probably not going to be doing that map. We hopefully shouldn't need an exorcist. The more that I keep thinking about it, our actual easiest access to a AI-only exorcist is probably going to be through the temples, which are currently completely inaccessible. So probably next best bet would actually be maybe if one of the Liches in Pirate's Graveyard drops it, or in Palace of the Dead itself. I think it's like floor 13 or so that's got the first Banished Necromancer, so we're definitely going to want to pick up one of them at some point. Any darn ways. Gonna try to recruit at least a couple more units. If we accidentally curb stomp the map, then we accidentally curb stomp the map. That's kind of about that. Alright, see you in the next part. Okay, so in a little bit of an unexpected twist here, we're actually kind of carving through the second map here as well. So the first one was no real issue. I mean, obviously eventually you're just going to have enough people to push through, but in that process they ended up causing enough of a distraction to allow for recruiting a cleric, who currently has been doing a good enough job keeping this team alive that it actually looks like we might be able to just kind of happily skip our way through the dragon map here. Now, I will say the so it's going to seem weird to the new folks to call it the Axe, Spear, and Hammer map, but that's going to be the next one there. But basically, the river used to be where you got Axe, Spear, and Hammer. And it's kind of why it constantly comes up in mind for that. But I don't know if this team will be good enough to take that on just yet. We might actually still have to retreat out of this. It might be worth sacrificing a unit or two to get by. Like, realistically, most of these guys are pretty replaceable. Though I am pretty happy with having that crossbow user over there. They've actually just the brimstone has been a pretty solid help. So part of the thing that we have to consider here when it comes to these AI teams is going to be their coverage. So, for example, something like Brimstone, they themselves, I believe, are air, so they can cover that just fine. And then at the same time, Brimstone allows them to switch over to fire temporarily. So constantly having access to these kind of effective attacks allows them to, well, effectively deal with other stuff that they might potentially have an issue with otherwise. Now, is it possible that they'll make it before this archer bleeds out? It's possible. I mean, it's completely not out of the realm of possibility here. It would be nice to have access to a poison unit, which we'll have access to pretty soonish here. And in fact, in this case, I mean, it's close enough that I feel like even if we just re-rolled the dice, we'd easily be able to get out of this one, though currently, with the amount of damage that they're doing, I feel like they'll probably be fine, especially considering that most of the heavy hitters are, still doing pretty heavy damage regardless of timers here, and regardless of positioning, and especially when it comes to things like Sonic Blade being pretty darn fast this time around. I mean, they haven't even collected any cards up to this point, which obviously we won't be able to do very much for cards. It will be worth, like I took the missile spell off of one of the wizards to allow for more cards to spawn. That'll be useful for these maps in particular. It's like right there, he's pretty much primarily going to be using a Thunderflare. It's going to be useful for now simply because there's a lot of grass tiles around. Once we actually get into POTD proper, there won't be as much use for it, since those tiles are not going to have anything destructible on them. But we'll have to kind of deal with that one as it comes here. Unfortunately, that guy's been weakened a little bit, so we might just barely not be able to clear this map, but it's close enough that I feel like another run or two should definitely do the job. Is actually going to be able... Will they be able to do it? I don't know. They're getting very close, that's for sure. If the main sacrifice is the archer there... but they're a crossbow one. They were a bit of a pain in the neck to get a hold of. And again, the main reason that crossbows are significant is because we actually won't have access to that many kind of different finisher options here, since we're missing out on the 4th tier of them entirely for this challenge. So having access to brimstone is going to be noticeable. I would assume, yeah, that's 164. They won't be able to have enough to make this happen. Oh, by the way, interesting trick I never realized up till now. If you just spam the hell out of your equivalent of the triangle button, so before it did the old interrupt thing like always, but I think they actually added a new function this time around, where if you mash it hard enough, you will immediately do an interrupt in the middle of the turn, rather than waiting for the next one. So, for example, before it's like... Here, let me show you. Let's go ahead and get this one started. But like before, if you did the interrupt, it would wait until the next kind of available action. So, like, let's say as soon as their turn starts... There we go, we hit interrupt. And so that was the kind of double tap interrupt. Otherwise, we press it normally, and it'll wait until the next available action, which is all well and good. But then if we repeatedly spam it, it'll stop, and before it even takes their turn, they'll be able to do anything. So I don't know what the exact rules are. It feels to me like it's just kind of double spamming it to stop mid-turn. Like before, you had to wait until their current turn was finished, or they had some kind of action that would be available. It seems to be different this time around. It might have always been a function. I've never seen this come up in the PSP version, so kind of assuming that it's new. Yeah, they added a lot of very subtle new stuff in this version, that's for sure. I'm gonna have to remember to double check that in the PSP version later. Any darn ways. Gonna re-roll this map a couple times until we get through it. Unfortunately, that turn 1 poison's not really gonna be doing very much good for us. It would be very nice if you actually drop that poison blowgun. That would give us a chance to actually use those poison blow darts on our whip guy, which would be dramatically better damage than anything else that he's got right now, especially if we put some Eagle Eye on there. So it might actually be worth kind of attempting to farm this map to see if we could potentially get those wart darts. Or not wart darts, but toxic... Or was it toxic darts? Whatever the hell he's got. Let's see. Yeah, currently I am on a different window, so I can't exactly see what he's got. Well, I guess we won't know now anyway, unless we happen to have rolled that item. Oh well, whatever. Toxic darts, that's what I'm looking for. You know, the thing with the poison and the makey of the big health go down. One way or another, we're going to want a source of poison going forward. My initial stable plan was just to use one-handed swords, just to use the tier 2 finisher. Just pretty high chance of poison off of that. We won't be able to use crafted equipment, because again, remember, we're not going to be able to use shops. So it's anything we can get as drops or recruitment. Yeah. We'll kind of see where we go from there. But yeah, the only kind of guaranteed built-in poison that somebody's going to be able to use right now, especially on AI, is going to be our tier 2 sword finishers. There's technically one on blow darts too, but if we can just get the poison blow darts, that would end up doing the job a lot better. I'm trying to think if there's... I don't think there's anything else aside from dragons, which we can't actually recruit dragons at this point. Because one thing that I noticed while doing this challenge in a completely different rule set before is that a lot of characters for the basic classes, they won't actually drop their class marks anymore. So for example, my initial strategy starting this off way back when was actually to start Denim off as a basic soldier, doing the Pharrell fight back in Chapter 2. And interestingly enough, I stayed there for... I think I was going and attempting that map for a few days, and there were no Rune Fencer marks that were dropping, so I was wondering what was up with that. And apparently, most of those class marks got replaced with charms. That's actually why I allowed the use of the Ice Charm earlier, because you can't actually just get Ice Charms as drops in this forest. It seems like all maps have a chance to drop them to some degree. And you can't actually sell off your charms, and if I went and used all the XP charms, it kind of would throw away the whole minimum level thing, so... Anyway, whatever. We're just gonna say that those are fair game. It's not exactly like they're hard to get a hold of. But anything we can get a hold of in this forest is gonna be fair game. So, with that all being said, let's go ahead and kind of cut this off until we get our way past this map. I feel like we're already probably pretty well solid here. because it feels like they're going to be able to handle this one just fine. He's getting his heals off consistently. We've only got 2 dragons left. We've got the we've got the one gremlin over there not doing anything particularly special. And she picked up her fizz up, so that should do some pretty solid numbers now. Yeah, archers are crazy in this version. Like, it's funny that for all the crap they get, they really are potentially one of the biggest damage spikes you can get. And actually, they're going to be pretty critical to even getting past this run in particular. Because obviously we can't use crafted stuff, but we can still potentially use kind of like a permanently reviving longbow. So we'll see how that ends up working out exactly. Obviously, the ideal would be charm bows. They'd just be able to repeatedly mind control stuff. Then again, technically speaking, the only limitation... Well, nah, I don't think we'll be allowing craftables. That'd be kind of lame. Okay, so no craftables whatsoever. Even if we get the Enchiridion, we can't use that Enchiridion. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Whatever. Anyway, moving on. Alright, there we go. They managed to get through just fine. I mean, just in the nick of time. We had one guy that almost went down, but still close enough. Alrighty, so quick little progress update here. So I've gotten about 20-odd units so far. 7 of them are going to be zombies. The rest are going to be normals. So a lot of this setup might look a little weird, because currently I'm actually going for a second set of zombies while also attempting to get some classes out of here. So given the rule set here, we actually, up to this point, haven't been able to even change Denim's class. Basic class marks don't really drop like they used to, so you can get some advanced class marks, but for example, if I ever were to change him out of the Fencer, I wouldn't have anything that would be able to recruit anymore. So it would be only the Knight or the Fencer that would be able to learn Recruit at this point, or Lord, which he, again, doesn't have access to because we're just doing kind of this little, like you can do Forest, you can do Pirate's Graveyard, you can do Palace of the Dead, and the idea is to, you know, get down there through Palace of the Dead. Now, granted, Rune Fencer's probably my favorite, so I'm definitely not even bothering to think about changing him out of that, but I'm just saying if we wanted to have any other classes, it wouldn't even be an option. So everyone's basically stuck at their at whatever classes they came in at. Right now, the reason I'm collecting additional units is just to have more options to potentially play around with going forward. While I do expect a lot of the kind of one-handed sword guys to be our poison access, I did also pick up an Envenom Ninja just in case. I would ideally want to pick up 2 of them, which Envenom spawns on the male ninjas on this map. Benum spawns on the female ninjas, so we'll see about picking up some of that later. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of trying to pick up abilities, see what we can potentially get a hold of, kind of recruit whoever we can recruit along the way. I mean, party cap is at 100 at this point, so we might as well just pick up a few units. So I'm actually doing a few rounds of recruiting. So we're doing this for some kind of middle-of-the-road, like semi-advanced classes. Technically, I got a Magus Mark off of the Warlock that spawns here, so I don't necessarily need to recruit one of them in case we do need access to Draconics or something at some point. While I don't see that coming up, it is, you know, technically a thing. I believe we might be able to get access to maybe some long-range Draconics out of Palace of the Dead, because I know the summons don't spawn there yet. But either way, we'll see what we get once we get there. Swordmasters are primarily just going to be there because they're one of the few units that can actually heal zombies. It's not something that's going to be terribly reliable, but if we do run into those situations where, you know, essentially they're getting worn down by Plink, a Swordmaster might be the way to go about it. But there's a second round of zombies that are available, kind of in the Volcano map up north. So that's kind of where I'm headed with all these guys, seeing what else we can pick up along the way, maybe pick up some extra charms in case we need them to swap elements and things. I do primarily expect them to either stick to lightning or wind for the most part. Because of the fact that we're recruiting a lot of these guys from the same spawns, a lot of them are going to be very kind of uniform as far as their elements go. This isn't necessarily going to be a bad thing, it just means that we're going to have a lack of certain elements, so we're going to figure that out as we go along. Additionally, if you're wondering why exactly we were starting off at 28, so originally I wanted to just do this all at strictly 28 and whatever else, but honestly there really isn't a whole lot of difference from 28 to 32. It's a few stats, it's not really the biggest deal in the world, but it does give a interesting little thing where we can guarantee that the zombies that first spawned are going to be 28s and 29s, meaning that they're more likely to get targeted, more likely to get knocked out, essentially functioning as a kind of shield for the living party, as it were. So we'll be probably taking off a piece of armor, probably their helmets or gloves, to give them a little bit of extra speed and make that respawn happen a little bit faster. Now, that being said, there are a few other things that I want to pick up along the way. Ideally, I don't know if we can get access that far yet, but I would like to maybe pick up some liches down in Pirate's Graveyard if we can, and would at the very least like to pick up a lot of extra abilities off these guys. Many units around this point in the game will be able to spawn with Draconics, but we don't necessarily need them. Again, that's kind of a, if it comes up, it comes up, but we can't exactly get them to leave their Draconics once they end up joining the team. It's one of those cases where they just straight up disappear. Also, just to kind of show off why exactly we go for not necessarily keeping him as a lightning element. Like, for example, in this particular case, if he had a lightning element on him, he might do 370 instead of 347 in this case, but also, he can essentially do his big damage against this guy, doing neutral or lightning, but then also jumps up to, like, 500 plus versus this water one, so just dual type coverage is going to be a bit more useful for our kind of specific case here. And also, he's got double crits, so he's almost guaranteed to crit, so we'll just go ahead and go after this one and see if we can... Yeah, there we go. Unfortunately, ended up critting the other one as well. Oh well. Brought those odds down to 1%. Yeah, one of those issues that comes with trying to recruit when you're running a full AI team is the fact that they're going to kill off the things that you're trying to recruit, which is not much of a problem when it comes to the 2 zombie maps in Farampa, because obviously they can just come right back on their feet with no issues. And especially if you're running an entire team of zombies, you basically can just have infinite attempts to repeatedly recruit the thing you want to recruit. But it will kind of lead to some complications every now and then. And if you're wondering, yes, we will eventually be breaking the level cap, because we can essentially use Recruit to then recruit higher level things out of Palace of the Dead. Not necessarily because we can... it won't necessarily give us that much of a benefit. Again, it caps off at 40. Honestly, when it comes to levels, while you'll notice a difference, it's not like it's going to be the main thing that makes a difference. Having some of these options available is going to be what makes a difference. Like, that's why I have so many units running poison, because, percentage damage is percentage damage. Who cares what it came from? Yeah, one thing that will become a little bit of an issue down the line is just kind of what we can potentially withstand. Like, even with relic gear and whatever else, a lot of the stuff in the later floors, especially around the 70s, is pretty brutal, so we'll kind of see what we can do as far as all that goes. Again, that's why a lot of the team is just kind of built around just dying and coming back to life, which is why we're going to be going for that hybrid, zombie/living team, allowing some of them to repeatedly heal themselves while the rest are going and just reviving back to life, as it were. But anyway, that's that for this particular update right here. We'll continue attempting to see what can be gotten, what can be found, what can be cheesed, and all that sort of business. Is this going to crit? Fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for. And that's exactly how you get those recruits if he decides to join. Well, that would have been a nice dramatic moment to join, by the way, buddy. But, alright, whatever. 30-ish% odds are going to be 30-ish% odds. In fact, actually, one more thing. I consistently thought that that maybe 40% was the maximum. A few times on Farampa now, I've seen it go up to 42%. So, I'm assuming maybe it's 45%. That's the actual complete maximum here. But either way, we'll get to it when we get to it. Not really much more to report at this point. I'll come back once I have more setup done, and we can move on to Pirate's Graveyard. Alrighty, quick little update here, actually, because I just noticed that there might be an opportunity to do a little bit of an exploit here. So, basically, I was going through, I was collecting all this stuff, and then randomly completely missed the fact that these guys actually come in with summons and such, which... Thing is, that's not... Most of the time, if you go and you hire them while they're using that kind of stuff, it disappears. And so that got me thinking, I wonder if it's actually possible, like, to actually have them essentially get hired, then die, then drop their loot pile of the stuff that they were carrying, and then essentially use that to maybe get access to this stuff early. Because as far as I can tell, it basically is only checking if you're leaving the fight with it. But if it's already added to your inventory, I can't imagine it's just instantly deleted, right? So either way, I mean, it's one of those cases that's so oddly specific that why the hell would it ever come up? And it seems like other stuff might have gotten missed, so this might potentially work too. Either way, currently the only guy that's that I can easily get access to here, and consistently get access to here, is the guy that is currently not being consistent to access, which is that male rune fencer right there in the center, the water element guy, who comes with a copy of Undine. So, a couple of little quick quirks about this map. So they seem to have pretty much 2 of every unit here, and each one of those pairs, funnily enough, this is basically how I usually run my teams on a normal run, but whatever. But they've got 2 copying pairs of every unit, and the exception are going to be the rune fencers, where the Valkyrie is given more support abilities, and then the male guy is given more, is given the summons there. Other than that, you've got your female ninjas with blowguns, you've got your male ninjas with swords, and you've got the beast tamers all coming in with bows and such. So we did actually get a blowgun bow set up for the ninja that's up there up top. But yeah, for the time being, the main focus is just to see if this exploit is possible. So be right back with an update on whether that worked. Actually, before we get to that part over figuring out whether that worked, so I was mentioning a couple quick quirks about this map. So if you're running this all on AI, basically if you run, I don't know if this is just because it's denim or whatever, but every time that I put denim over on this side and ran him down this way, the AI would always separate 2 to 3 units and have him go down this way. However, when I was manually controlling denim and walking him down this way, the AI consistently has been kind of going down this route. The flyers will attempt to take the center, where the all of the walking units will attempt to go down here. And part of the reason that I was saying that this guy over here has been pretty darn consistent is because since the Rune Fencer and Valkyrie have built-in Wade 1, just as part of the class, we still won't have access to anything crafting related. But since it's built in, you can just basically use their kind of semi-aquatic movement to go down this way. And then usually he'll... go away, window. He'll usually hang out around here. Every now and then he'll just kind of suddenly decide to go off to the sides. And additionally, we've been deploying any kind of lightning available units. So, for example, anyone with Giga Tempest, anybody with Thunder Flare, anything like that. And just kind of deploying them in bulk here. Currently there have been, I want to say like 2 or 3 casualties for the purpose of getting this guy. But either way, at this point, we can replace a lot of these guys, and I plan to go back and get way more zombies after this. So, a few casualties will be necessary. Again, the point is to try and recruit this guy and have him bleed out, so any living characters that are unconscious at that time will similarly no longer be conscious. Unfortunately, he is probably a unique exception of some of the worst recruit luck I've had in this... Like, hell, this entire save file, quite frankly. I don't know. It seems against how they usually do things for him to have any special programming as far as this goes. But, like, yeah, the dude has refused to be recruited, I think, like, 15+ times at this point. Even though I've gotten practically everybody else on the map at least once before. So, anyway, I think it's just RNG being RNG, as you do. Because, again, this is usually consistent enough that this recruit strategy has been working pretty darn well for the speedrun. Just like, almost like it was created to be contrarian, as just like all speedruns and longbows, but more on that when we get to those videos. I just wanted to take a quick little detour to see if this adventure is possible. Alright, back to it. Okay, so here we are, still continuing on with the same setup here. I suppose on one of the bright sides of this whole thing, due to the fact that he's generally one of the tankier units, and the fact that Denim is also one of the tankier units, these 2 friggin' kingly mofos are just over here hanging out, having a chat in the middle of a swamp, rather than, either one of them getting killed off repeatedly. Now, is that always the case? No, because if the 2 Dragoons decide to go left, they can easily, overwhelm Denim pretty quick. Or if this guy decides to go run towards the center, he can become a fairly valid target for everybody there. But for the most part, especially given the way that this team's set up, they have a tendency to just spam a bunch of AoEs, as the other guys tend to cluster up in the middle, trying to kind of get around what little front line there is in this team. And yeah, in the meantime, we just kind of collect endless amounts of pants and helmets, as we do. But I'm hoping, if maybe, just maybe, it is currently recording. Maybe, against all odds, it'll finally decide to function. I mean, I know 32% is less likely than likely, but at the same time, it feels like it definitely should have happened by this point. But, you know, this is always how it goes. This is usually, like, whenever I see somebody say that recruit is not functioning or whatever else, this is usually the kind of situation I'll bring up. Because it's, like, if you spam it all the time, it feels like it's completely broken in terms of nothing can resist it. But if you're going and trying to use it to recruit one particular guy, it will 100% fail on you, like, 99% of the time. It is hilarious how that works. Oh, you son of... Oh, okay. For a second there, I thought he just killed the dude. Because most of the time, the way that this works is, you know, Denim gets enough to do a finisher and a recruit, so I go up, drop a Rending Gale, you know, lighting on water, get that extra damage, and then attempt to do the recruit, and then we just kind of keep doing this over and over until he eventually decides to join. Please, dude, just go for the flank or something. Don't get yourself killed again. Like, this literally just goes on until he dies by some means or another. But yeah, this is always how it has a tendency to go. And that right there is why you get all of the lightning units involved, because they tend to completely trounce this map. And in one of those unfortunate cases, I had to leave this particular experiment when I was trying it with the Lady Valkyrie there, simply because, well, unfortunately they were kicking slightly too much ass, and the fight would have ended, and, you know, then the map would have been kind of taken out of the pool for the time being, and I didn't feel like doing everything up to this point again. And in fact, I think I'm probably gonna scrap going to the whole volcano section, because I don't remember there being anything too special up there. And as long as we have, you know, archers and fencers from the Feral Shore, we pretty much should be good to go here. Already got a few clerics. I would like to pick up one of these dragoons if they ever decide to cooperate. Just would be ideal for certain, like, some of those really dragon-heavy maps. Just kind of throw a couple dragoons at it and have it be a nice quick clear, though realistically, in a pinch, the poison ninjas will do the job just fine. Like, that's the thing, most of the dragon maps also don't have a tendency to have the option to recover, so... Alright. Now, here is the question. Will this guy, because he's finally, you know, sitting on camera, finally agree to be recruited? That's the question. That's a question. Because, again, this has succeeded, like, 30, 40 plus times in this dang forest alone. And this is also when we play, please don't get knocked back, please, 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 just don't, you know, fly backwards, all that kind of thing. Alright. He'll barely survive that. Don't knock back. You gotta survive 2 knockbacks. And again, this is when, like, when we celebrate the fact that it stays relatively at the same amount. Like, it does eventually start ticking down some certain percentages or whatever. Birdman? That was just a complete dick move. Alright, now we reset this again. Holy crap, finally. Alright, moment of truth. Is this actually gonna work? I don't know. I'm about to find out. Okay, let's see. Does it work? Does it work? Please say that it actually works. No. Oh, another shot. Okay, another update. So I've gone and gone through Feral Coast again. I'm just kind of testing them out on a few maps here, just to see how we go. So there's 2 more units that I was thinking of picking up here, here in the forest, that I'm thinking might be better off just picked up in POTD itself. So those would have been the 2 zombie beast tamers that show up on one of the northern dragon maps. So the idea for that is less for the actual taming thing, since obviously on AI they will never tame anything, but the kind of theoretical idea that we can make a unit that if we happen to get a better status blowgun, we essentially have, you know, just a blowgun guy that keeps coming back to life. So either way, theoretically good idea, especially if we have something like, let's say, a dragon map where we give them Repel Dragon, which they have at this point. They simply use those blowguns to repeatedly just avoid those dragon attacks, and then go and, let's say hit them with a poison. Now, so far I haven't seen anything with the frog dart blowguns. So we'll see we'll see coming back to that as time permits. We do have the option to actually use all of those same strategies already. We just don't have the zombie versions of those hawks to do that. Again, they are a couple of maps over from here, and it is a very oddly specific build that we technically have better answers for at this point. It's just a potential idea, because a lot of the maps in Palace of the Dead are, for example, stuff where it's like, hey, it's all beasts and all dragons, and you're all in really close quarters, and so you don't necessarily want to rely on, like, let's say if we're talking about that big eye-shaped map, or the one that's like one long strip with 3 smaller sideways strips and then 4 big holes in the middle. We don't necessarily want to be running those situations where we have a bunch of units standing nearby cliffs, because remember, we're at 32. Until we get some better kind of POTD units, we don't actually have access to Steadfast. That's why many of the units that we hired are going to be flying zombie rune fencers, giving them access to poison, the ability to fly, and all of that. That doesn't mean that they're immune to holes, especially, given how hard a lot of things are going to be hitting. We don't even have accessories for all of these guys, so in many cases they will simply be, slapped right off a cliff and die. So they still have to be conscious when they're off the cliff in order to be able to fly back from it. So either way, in order to try and avoid those situations, it would be nice to either pick up units with Steadfast or whatever else, and I would prefer to be getting those better Steadfast units in POTD itself, so we're probably just going to go ahead and skip those ones in the forest for now. Until we have a way to come back with some stronger units in order to spawn some stronger units in order to maybe get Steadfast that way. But either way, we'll kind of deal with that as we will. For now, I just want to kind of start plotting on the road to hell itself in order to see what we can potentially acquire on the way. And yeah, aside from that, as you can see, these guys are still doing the job just fine. I'm training them all on a few different skills. Actually, one thing I didn't mention earlier is the fact that the extensive training at the lake, or rather the extensive attempt to break the game at the lake, caused so many knockouts for our zombie wizard guy that he almost defected. But now, if we go and take a look at him, we'll go ahead and, here. I love how we got a... we haven't even seen the Ranger in this one, but we got the Braves mark. In the eyes of this unit, you're a worthy unit that can do no wrong. He was ready to defect about, like, half an hour ago. The reason for this is because skills will rapidly raise up a unit's loyalty. Now, because this is a extremely in-the-background mechanic, I think what happened was that they simply kind of broke the previous about 8 skill limit on a lot of those skills, because okay, if you didn't know, when you raise a skill, you get loyalty. You get a loyalty bonus. I think it's like 10 or something. But the funny thing is that before, in order to raise up a skill, it took a long time. Like, again, rank 8 was the maximum, and the slowest rate in this game is still about 6 times faster than the fastest rate in that one. So, well, I mean, than the average rate, I should say. There were some cases where it was faster, like, for example, a Fusel trained at about 2% per shot, give or take, which still was extremely fast in that game, and it's still, like, 3% is the lowest in this one that I've seen. Anyway, but the funny part is that, yeah, it seems like just a few seconds of giving a unit any type of skill training whatsoever will cause their loyalty to completely max out. And the funny part is that, again, since spells are tied to your weapon skill, they'll use whatever weapon skill is the most in need of training. That is to say, it'll spread experience between all of them, and then it will still attempt to raise them all up. You can just slot in a different weapon skill, because again, they aren't going to be using finishers in this case, and yeah, they'll just go ahead and immediately get their loyalty capped out, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Additionally, I was going to switch Denim into another class here, namely we picked up the Cleric. So as you saw, I got rid of all class marks and everything else going into this. We're entirely trying to run off of stuff that we can find in the forest and POTD. And I was very tempted to turn him into the Cleric, but there's one exception, which is just, I like my green spear, you know? Yes, the Trident is better. I don't care. This is my starting spear that I came in here with. Like, this is... every game that I've ever gotten into, I've always just had a spear that I particularly liked that I stuck with. All right, like in this one, it's always kind of been the Scorpion. In the original PSP version, it was the Bardish. Back in RuneScape, it was always my old Myth Spear. And like again, it's never the best one. I just always like to carry a particular spear around. So realistically, we probably won't get another Scorpion for the rest of this thing. So this is his, unique Scorpion for this one. I just want to stick with that with him. But basically, the idea is I don't want to switch to any class that doesn't have a recruit. So for example, technically at some point I could switch him over to a ninja, and then he would have access to poison arrows, or I could switch over to a beast tamer and get stuff like that. But until I get another Mage Knight mark, I can't switch back to Rune Fencer, which would mean that in that situation where that became necessary, the cleric would be the one that we switched to. But either way, if we wanted to get golems on the team, maybe. Yeah, the pumpkin heads. Like, this would be useful for pumpkin heads. If we need an exorcism option that badly, then we'll get pumpkin heads. Realistically, there's other ways that I've been considering, and we'll get to that when we get to it. But pumpkin heads would probably be the easiest automatic exorcism. Again, we can't use the shop, so we can't go pick up Starfall. For beast tamers, again, would be a lot of options for a lot of tankiness. Ninjas would be useful for poison arrows, but again, Denim is here as a recruiter, and that is the capacity that he'll be used in. Additionally, another funny note is that while it's fairly well known that things like the summons and draconics are unavailable when you go and recruit a unit, it turns out that ease is also unavailable. So, like, for example, many of these fencers that I got down here did actually originally come with ease on their skill list in their 4th slot. And yeah, they immediately lost it upon joining, and unfortunately that trick of attempting to see if maybe there was an oversight, and maybe if we caused them to die and pick up their equipment, maybe they would drop it on the ground, and then we could skip this whole, they lose it when recruiting thing. But it looks like, yeah, anytime that it's available whatsoever, it's just automatically deleted. So that's a little bit of a bummer. We do still have our kind of triple debuff setup on our ninjas here, so we do have at least one unit that's capable of doing this. I will see if there's maybe a use for some other stuff down the road, but either way, blowguns and bows do give some pretty solid coverage, so that'll be fairly handy there. Unfortunately, this is lightning, so really this just kind of gives them ice while also giving them a nice handy dex bonus. I apologize for all the chirping in the background. They've gotten way louder at this point, and I will be relocating for the longer parts of this, but either way. What else did we pick up along the way here? So we picked up a few buffs. So, for example, you already saw that we got access to Boon of Swiftness. That's been pretty handy. We got Shadowbind, Envenom, and Benumb from the ninjas in the forest. Obviously, all of the Swordmasters will come with the same war dances. It's mostly been basic missiles on most of the units, Boon of Swiftness on any kind of later fencers there. Drain Mind and Drain Heart are going to be off of pretty much any of the better spellcasters. And let's see what else. As far as new units that we've got Marty the Pigeon here. He's going to be another poison spammer guy. We'll go ahead and take BOS off him right here. We've got another knight here who's going to be going for the usual just absorbing everyone's health thing. So I'm going to have some of them running Phalanx. I'm going to have some of them running Guardian Force. The reason for this is just, obviously, it's going to be pretty darn fantastic to have all of your damage spread out all over the place with a bunch of zombies. I'm training Acid Snake here with crossbows just to have access to those finishers. If you're wondering why Acid Snake, if you've ever played Metal Gear Acid 2, or I guess technically 1 as well, he's here in the exact same capacity. Namely, if his partners get knocked out, he's here to stay alive. If he gets knocked out, then hopefully his partners are there to keep him alive. Yeah, it was a weird mechanic in that one where you basically got to the end of your bleed out timer, and as long as one of your team was still standing, everyone could be still standing, so it led to some goofy stuff when doing a starter deck only of MG Acid, where I basically just went in and repeatedly let somebody get like frickin' hyper beamed by a Metal Gear for about 3 straight days. Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, so we've got that. We got a Dragoon. There wasn't a Zombie Dragoon available as of yet. I'm sure there might be one down the road somewhere, but realistically they're here for, Bane, Slayer, all of that kind of thing. These guys are here for speedrunning dragons more than being our primary answer to them, so we'll kind of, adapt as we do here, but again, I wouldn't expect these guys to be kind of the primary for anything. Anyway, just picked up one of them for the time being because I know there's going to be more. Ninja's doing the ninja thing. Unfortunately, they don't use Shadowbind even with concentration. That would have been pretty neat, but this one, I'm not even shocked they took this out, because this was super freaking annoying in the PSP version when they would just have like 10% chance to Shadowbind and then immediately start every fight with one. Yeah, that kind of sucked in some cases. But anyway, I picked up a few Swordmasters. All they'll do is use Harvest Dance. This is useful in very niche cases. So basically, this will still heal zombie units. So if we have a couple of them and they're repeatedly just spam healing the entire time, it could be something that might be handy. Again, lots of coulda, shoulda, woulda, maybes. Yeah. So this kind of setup right here is fairly handy. There's a chance for preempt to knockback, and Mind's Eye would avoid basic attacks, and then Constitution for a little extra health. This kind of gives them some decent survivability. Generally speaking, Fencers are the main thing we're going to be relying on because they're freaking amazing. Additionally, the only class change that I've done so far, because it was technically available, like, I know I've been saying, like, technically you can't change classes, and also, it's not completely true that we can't change classes. It's just for most of these guys, it's not going to be practical or useful whatsoever. But anyway, I decided to give Bird Force 1 here, the one of the Boulder Maces, and just turn him into a kind of very mobile wizard. Are there better options like crossbows for him? Sure, but at the same time, it's like one extra range with this thing. He doesn't have meditate, so he kind of sucks at it. Really, he's here to throw out buffs and debuffs and that kind of thing. So far, he's somehow survived using this stupid build, so we'll switch him out into something else if we need to. Just right now, I don't really see too much of a reason to use this guy aside from basic support. We've got some more basic units over here. Charm-wise, we're down to 1 earth and 1 water. Again, if we need more, we'll just come back and redo the stuff. Basically, you hunt fairies in the forest in order to get charms. For the time being, there's not too much of a reason to bother. Like, we can get more over here. Generally, this map is pretty good for getting them. Sometimes you'll see them over here. Down this way, you see a few of them. But for the time being, I'm not really going to bother with any of that, because, again, these AIs are going to be mostly just kind of hammering away on stuff and coming back to life. So, all right. Let's get to the next map and get this walk over to the POTD started. Alright, first map here is going to be the Majora Drift. So let's see what we're actually working with here. So unfortunately we're forced to bring Denim along for this one. We'll deal with that as we'll deal. So this is the one that has a Crystal Dragon. We don't have to fight that, realistically speaking. Although I don't know if the actual rule for them dropping certain things will apply for this one. I don't know. Either way, we'll deal with that as we'll deal. They'll end up fighting the guy one way or another, so we can just kind of do whatever. In most cases, the Crystal Dragon will just kind of go up here, and that'll be that. Actually, that's kind of cool. I love doing this whole, like, you got a thumbstick in one hand, mouse in the other thing. Most of these guys are fairly scattered. Really, Poison's going to be our main kind of go-to here. So I'm thinking we go ahead and swap out our party a little bit. You're going to go over here. You're going to be a healing support. AoEs are going to do their thing. Let's see. Yeah, you'll be fine. You're doing poison stuff. In fact, I would prefer if you don't use this finisher at all and you just get your poison one down the road. I think they finally finished the whole, or they finally fixed the whole thing where you get all of your finishers back on your list if you end up getting a level up thing. That all seems to be solved at this point. I took the missile abilities away from the wizards because it was just kind of annoying. So either way, we did that. Let me see if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, those guys should all be poison. Fear in the front here should be pretty solid. Go and replace you with that. And then we'll probably throw in our poison ninja here. If they die, they die. Their equipment goes to somebody else, and we move on. Bear in mind, there are a lot of ways that we can potentially lose our equipment, so we'll see how this goes and hope for the best, you know? So, yeah. But again, lots of potential ways for equipment to get lost. If a unit is killed and somebody else, like, let's say on the enemy team, picks it up, then, you know, that sucks. If they get knocked off a cliff, it's gone. If a unit that we end up later recruiting picks it up, it is also similarly gone. I've seen a few requests kind of asking if it, or I guess just a few comments really, asking if by chance they'll ever fix that, and honestly I don't even know how they can, considering this wasn't even a mechanic in the original. It's just kind of intended as a quality of life feature. Because originally, if any unit picked up your stuff and it wasn't your unit, that stuff was just deleted on the spot. So the whole concept of the AI picking it up and saving it for later wasn't even there, and adding a second layer to that, basically saying, okay, they were recruited, now that gets transferred over to your equipment. It seems like it would be, while yes, it was probably an oversight, it also seems like it would be an additional function on top of that. So like on a system level, I don't think it could do that, but you know, would love to be proven wrong on that. Either darn ways, we'll just assume they're super greedy for now. Okay, so as it stands, we're doing okay here. You know, given the fact that the fight hasn't even really started yet. But the idea of this party is in many ways kind of going to come down to crumple zones, because again, we want to make sure that certain bits of the party are going to be available, certain bits won't be. So obviously we want to try and start off with some debuffs, and then we want to have the zombies doing the bulk of the holding, bulk of the keeping everybody in place. If they do damage, great. If they launch debuffs, great. Really our main goal through all of this is just going to be to maintain as much as possible, just being a slow wave. They're going to each be expected to come back 2 or 3 times. Obviously the AI is going to do AI stuff, so we're expecting to see some stupid decisions every now and then. But, you know, we'll deal as we'll deal. Now, the reason that I wanted to go about it this way rather than just doing the entire playthrough on just AI is because I've done that, and it's the usual. Everybody's seen these story fights a million times. Realistically, you want to see a lot of the harder fights done. So we're just going to go ahead and, you know, kind of start this off on the deep end. Like, POTD, especially in this version, is generally seen as one of the kind of hardest things to go through, especially completely unprepared. And usually it's one of those cases where, like, if you make it through POTD, the other stuff generally comes fairly easy. Obviously, there are going to be exceptions. You know, Coda 4 is its own thing. And if this goes well enough, maybe we'll consider doing that. But level 32, you know, POTD, I figure is kind of one of those, kind of the equivalent of the Chrysler building for Parasite Eve, in my book. But either way, we'll, you know, we'll get to that as we do. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep her topped off. That's going to be his primary purpose here. And, yeah, the main reason I'm not putting Denim on AI at this point, which I guess technically I could, I just could set him to heal and that's all, but I just like to have some buttons to press. I mean, realistically, he's going to be doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. He's just running around healing the only unit that he can heal. So the best way to use an AI is to limit the amount of things that it can do, which is, again, why we took the missile abilities of... I am so sick of door-to-door salespeople today. Okay, one sec. Be right back. Huh, that's interesting. I went to go answer the door, and, well, I switched Denim over to AI, and sure enough came back to this. So, how bad did this go? Who's alive? Apparently everyone made it. Okay, cool. So, first test, immediately a success. Let's go ahead and move straight into the next one. By the way, I love that they finally fixed the stability in this game. Can finally play it just like the PSP version of just going from map to map to map, not worrying to save in between. Okay. This one actually could be a problem. Let's see, what do we got? Do you have exorcism? No. Do you? No, you also don't have exorcism. You have immunity to poison, which just... or resistance to poison, rather, which is just kind of funny. This guy has resistance to curse. Yeah, it should be... sure would be cool if we got those resist abilities, but whatever. Anyway. So one of these guys actually has a chance to drop, like, a Cloud Ring or Cloud Shoes or something along them lines. Either darn ways, though. Thankfully, they basically got nothing on this party, so there's that. And we can probably go ahead and replace the ninja with something else. Namely, probably another caster, because really the answer to a whole lot of units like this is just going to be a whole lot of caster-type units. I doubt this guy went and did anything particularly special with his items, so we'll go ahead and kind of leave him as is. He does have some, other consumables, as he will. Generally speaking, yeah, this is going to be fine as is. We're going to go ahead and give him his constitution, and yeah, let's just kind of see what happens here. Yeah, I'm surprised they handled that first one so darn well. I really expected at least the ninja to die or something. That's why I brought extras. But anyway. Yes. So yeah, I think it's one of the clerics that ends up dropping those boots or that ring or whatever it was. I know they do in the PSP version, because I'm pretty sure that's where I ended up getting the cloud shoes on my kind of sort of original save file. Because yeah, like the cloud shoes aren't really too impressive for a lot of things and generally tend to get overlooked. But their main purpose is for a lot of those kind of weird niche uses, because they'll put you one tile higher. Just kind of put you as defender. By the way, I found that putting a lot of your ranged units and casters and whatever else on defender rather than ranged attacker tends to make them move a lot less erratically, because they have a tendency to stick nearby their support a lot better. Count that as you will. Now, technically, I probably should be going for some more recruits on maps like this, but we'll deal with that as we'll deal. What's the actual level of status at this point? Because I think these guys should still be in their 32s, maybe? As soon as we see somebody that can break the level cap, we can start doing some funny stuff. But we'll see a lot more of those once we actually enter POTD proper, because that just becomes a regular thing. Because, yeah, leader's 33, I would assume everyone else is going to be... yeah, 32, so they're pretty much going to be peers and all that. Their one archer is going to get a pretty major advantage on account of being fire, so that's nice. Their clerics will get a chance to be offensive because reasons, but the kind of side benefit of being able to be damaged by clerics is the fact that you can also drain clerics of MP. So instead of just sitting there stockpiling MP to constantly spam their bigger heals whenever they need to, the AI clerics can simply burn them out attempting to be offense, and yeah, then just do the whole surprise Pikachu face as soon as they don't have the ability to heal on time. So there's that. Anyway, so at this point, yeah, it should be the same old slow burn that we've been doing up to this point. The zombies go out, so they do the thing where they slap everybody around. Hopefully they end up dropping some of their equipment. Again, we could be going for recruits at this point, but screw it. Realistically, we're probably going to be just fine. Like, right there, major heal is kind of one of the major issues, as it were. This is why we brought a whole lot of AoE casters, because it will essentially allow us to do the same thing, but in reverse, doing stuff like that right there. If we bring along a whole bunch of them, it can be pretty successful. Usually, what you want to do is have them all line up with Engulf, RT, and Meditate at the same time. Usually, one or two rolls of Meditate will keep them running for the next couple rounds, depending on how Natural Regeneration is treating them that day. And, yeah, we'll see how that goes. Usually, like, for example, back on the lake map, it was particularly successful, because you have a few knights that hopefully decide to clump everybody up in one thing. All the AoEs come in and repeatedly stomp, as they do. And at that point, all everybody else has to do is clean up, which is another reason that we'll be running archers there. They're a nice combination of unit with absolutely sucky resistance and unit that's able to function despite being recently being knocked out. So, for example, many of the other ones will be relying on Meditate or something like that, or the warrior units or the knight units might be a little bit slower on their kind of initial uptake, as it were, but, or rather, just kind of coming back on their feet. The nice thing about the archer is they're going to be reasonably fast for actually getting back on their feet. They'll still be able to target their squishies, they'll usually be in a better position to target their squishies, and then can simply redirect aggro in a weird direction, which tends to make everybody else's job a little bit easier. Okay, so we're going to watch through most of this one. For a lot of these fights, just so you know, we're just going to be doing a here's the party we went in with, and here's who survived, and here's something interesting that happened, because obviously recording every single second of a friggin' 100-plus fight situation here is going to be a little bit iffy, especially when we're kind of working with about 2 gigabytes of total space. So that's a thing, too, which, granted, I have ways that I'm getting around that, but still. Yeah, I don't really foresee too many issues for these guys right here. Like, probably all that's going to end up happening is they'll eventually end up overwhelming one of the healers. They'll eventually end up overwhelming another one of the healers. Like, they do less initial kind of neutral damage, but when they have the opportunity, they'll do those big pushes. So especially, like, in some cases, fire, in some cases, wind units are going to be particularly vulnerable, because a lot of these guys are running ice on account of where they were recruited from. I will be diversifying some of their elements as we find kind of charms laying around. I probably should have done more of that up to this point, but again, just kind of decided not to, because in some cases it can be beneficial. Because one of the nice benefits of going and stacking for a particular element, especially when it comes to, like, let's say a lot of those axes with ice finishers, is that we can potentially be stacking a prevailing element, which can be particularly handy when we are looking at a situation where these guys are mostly operating off of attrition. So, that's a thing too. But, one thing at a time. Just kind of leave them doing their thing for a moment, and we'll be right back when something interesting happens. I forgot one of the quirky side benefits here of having essentially one human unit surrounded by zombies, especially when there's clerics around, because they keep major healing and they keep healing denim up while attempting to do damage to these other units. Literally just had a case where that the cleric on the left failed to roll his meditate, so he went and he did a major heal attempting to damage denim and one of the zombies. Damaged said zombie, healed up Denim, and then didn't have MP for the next round, so he ran up and swung his Caldia and got counter-speared. It's just funny, But anyway, the AI is always trying. It's an AI. It does what it does. But either way, just these little things here and there are going to make a massive difference as it goes on. Because basically, unless Denim goes down, which, given that he's relatively bulky and he's constantly healing himself and everybody else can just kind of regenerate over time fairly quickly, this tends to make it a fun little thing where you just kind of sit back and watch. Because again, almost none of the clerics even will ever carry exorcism. Exorcism staves, I don't even think they ever do run. I don't think they actually run any of the Enchiridion gear at this point. Because, the Exorcism Staff used to be a fairly standard piece of equipment back in PSP, because there was a lot of the kind of first tier of craftables, so, for example, the Colchrome and, the Exorcism Staff and stuff like that, tended to be far more widely available, and this time around, it's more so, the Worm Scale set is more available. It's just generally more acquirable, stuff like the Spark Guard boots and whatever. All of that stuff is kind of more proliferated around the world, as, you'd kind of expect the higher tier of armor to be, which is kind of why it gives it that sort of Knight of Lotus feel. Because, back in Knight of Lotus, you had that plate mail upgrade around the end of the game, and finally in this version, you're not stuck with simply Balder. You actually do get your proper worm scale upgrade at the final chapter. I say final chapter. It's more like 5 final chapters, but still, you get the idea. Basic armor at this point is still Balder. It's still the plate mail equivalent, but then you get the better version through Worm Scale is what I'm getting at. In terms of overall feel, the plate body from Knight of Lotus is the Worm Scale in this one. Again, at least in terms of feel. I know it's not in terms of, stacked tiers, as it were. It's just the Balder's more the spellcaster armor in this one. And it always felt a little bit kind of out of place to have it be considered the better armor, which is why the Brigandine kind of takes over, which is a nice little, it makes sense as far as the Brigandine goes, but it's also kind of, the Archer armor. Historically, it makes sense, but it doesn't quite match that Knight of Lotus feel, which, again, this time it kind of did, so I'm happy about that. So what is Marty the Pigeon gonna do? Okay, never mind, they didn't fix the whole they get their finishers back every time they level up thing, because his Rending Gale is back. Oh well. Whatever. I'm not even sure how you'd finish that, or how you'd fix that, because again, that wasn't even a feature back in the PSP version, so pretty much anything that wasn't originally a feature tended to have something weird about it, which again, in most cases, most folks wouldn't bother taking those finishers off until they're already maxed out anyway. So yeah, it's in that category of minor annoyance that it's not really going to do much. Alright, anyway, you get the general idea. This is mostly how a lot of this stuff is going to go. There's going to be certain maps where they're particularly overwhelmed, but as long as they can survive this and just kind of keep coming back in waves, it all just comes down to a matter of timing. Literally will just be a timing game going forward. But if we just find the right kind of party layout for each one, that's actually why we have a few knights on the team, that for those ones where it's going to be particularly hard for them to survive that initial wave, we're going to have a squishy wave followed by some phalanx knights to just buy time, and then get everybody else back up on their feet. And then hopefully we will get access to, well, maybe some level breaks early on. Maybe. Realistically, we're probably going to require a few fancy rings and things. Those rings are only going to be probably going on knights and things for the time being, just units that are likely to survive, but don't have access to Steadfast. Stuff like casters or whatever, it would just be a waste, because we're really not going to have access to that many more than likely. I wouldn't expect to be able to outfit the entire team, at least not immediately. So, either way, we'll figure the logistics of that out as we go along. And again, they're very close to winning until they won't be in a few seconds, when everybody comes back to life and they're like, I don't get it, why is everybody back again? We already killed these guys. Well, unfortunately, you guys don't bring exorcism with you anymore, so this strategy is just extremely broken. It is funny how it leads to necromancers being a bit of a hilariously busted thing, which... That being said, again, if there's a possibility to somehow make a ranged unit that's divine, like if we find a divine charm somewhere, I doubt we can, and then if we turn that and we make a divine zombie, basically. If we can make a divine zombie archer somehow, which it probably would be more like a fencer, because fencers can naturally turn into every element, you know, just throw that onto the pile of reasons why fencers and Valkyries are just the frickin' best. But anyway, like, we take Fencer, we turn it divine, we give it a short bow, and then, I don't know, probably start it next to the Vartan, make sure the Vartan gets its turn first, hopefully gets that buff, and then set them to aggressive, and hopefully they'll seek out any Necromancers that they find, and we just kind of have an anti-Necromancer unit, because they always show up as dark. So if we have a divine unit, they will be particularly likely to seek out any dark units, or if we have a light unit, they'll be particularly likely to seek out any dark units and make sure that they're, you know, not quite alive anymore. Because again, so far I have not seen a single archer mark drop anywhere, and even on other save files and whatever else, I don't think I've ever actually seen any of the 5 basic classes, aside from the Sybil, actually drop a mark anywhere. So... you know, we'll see. We'll see. Most of them I just kind of ended up buying out at the store, because obviously they would just be available at the store. There really wouldn't be much of a reason for them to be available as a drop, because it's something everyone has access to already. But you know, we'll figure that out. Man. Hopefully, this will be a pretty solid example of why we're not going to be leaving every map in. Anyway, moving on. Okay, slightly different layout this time. So, basically what we're looking at right here is a case where they're going to be pretty much stuck in a slog for a lot of this. And we've got a guy over here that, well, he's just running a pistol, but I remember there being a decent amount of support from him, or for him. I'm not sure from where, though, looking at it. I remember there being some item support or something. Maybe I'm mistaken. Either way, this hopefully shouldn't be too much of an issue for them. They've got archers, mostly we can resist those. There's a absolute crapload of dragons in the way. No, we're not going to bother with the dragoon for that. Basically, we've got just all of the sword and poison guys. Basic idea here is lots of knights to hold those guys in place, lots of flyers to attempt to get by, and then lots of AoE splashers in order to attempt to scratch that guy down. And then hopefully just kind of denim hanging out in the meantime to see how all that goes. So we're just going to go ahead and get this started here. Again, Denim is still on AI at this moment. And is there anything he can... I feel like this guy has less overall support than he did in the PSP version, actually. Maybe that's what I'm mixing up, because now that I think about it, I think I am thinking of that time that I did One Vision, where he came with a bunch of mend seeds and stuff like that, and it's kind of difficult to get him sniped down. either darn ways, this is probably going to be one hell of a long one, so, you know, we'll do as we'll do. We set this on AI, he's just going to... They're just going to do their best. We're going to set it on AI. I'm going to go do some laundry or something and see if we come back to a victory screen. See how that goes. Okay, let's see. This is like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so into this whole thing. Let's see how they're doing. So Denham's looking in kind of rough shape over there. I'm going to assume there was a little bit of friendly fire or something. It's like a few of their units are down, but generally speaking... yeah, the Knights are doing their job. Got one Knight over there, holding two of them kind of off by themselves. Looks like the casters are both standing, doing those splashes as they should. Got one of their splashers that's about to come back. One of their, I think that's their crossbow guy up top that's about to come back. I mean, generally speaking, they seem to be doing the job exactly as they should. Now, that being said, I wonder if the AI actually targets downed units when it comes to zombies. Because it seems a little bit weird that... well, actually, it's not weird now that I think about it. They probably were trying to target as many tiles as they could, while at the same time attempting to try to target that unit to their left, but... or to their right, technically, from that side? I don't know. A little bit curious as to... I mean, I'm assuming Denham probably didn't have enough points for a heal 3. That's probably why he didn't go for it. It should be mostly out of range, unless that guy's running Engulf on his pistol, possibly. I don't think he will, because a lot of them tend to run less tricky builds. I don't know why it's so funny that it's just some dude with a revolver in a sea of zombies. It's just... I don't know. This is the reason that I always tended to mix this guy up with Leon, the other guy. But, anyway. Wait, isn't... yeah, this guy's Celio or something, isn't he? Let's see. Let's interrupt it real quick to go take a look. Yeah, this is Cielo. Cielo, I don't know. I'm assuming that name probably means something a bit more overseas or something. Because now that I think about it, I've seen a few games with somebody inexplicably named Cielo, but it's always some different spelling, like Cielo, Cello. Saw one that was like Cialo or something. Not really sure. But either way, as long as these splashes keep on reaching Mr. Cello, then that will be kind of where the last fiddle plays, so to speak. So yeah, I guess back to doing stuff, unless this guy knocks out Denham or something. I mean, eventually I'm sure he'll get knocked out, but at this point, I mean, he's lasted this long, so there must be something good going on. These guys are doing a good job pretty much keeping him safe. Yeah, stop going for the lightning bows, man. What is your problem? I think I'm going to have to take all those offensive abilities away from him so he just stops doing that and saves his MP a little bit. He's probably waiting for a conserve MP turn to roll or something like that, but they've probably got maybe 2 rounds in him at this point. Either way, he's back. What are you going to do? You're going to go for targeting the Warlock there? Nope, goes for the Wizard, which I guess makes sense. He's an ice, isn't he? Are you going to splash? Yes, you are. Beautiful. So yeah, this just kind of continues on and continues on. We'll see what kind of screen we come back to in just a moment. You know, weird observation here, just kind of as a bit of a theory. So a lot of the stuff that they did for Reborn was kind of like little subtle touches that worked, kind of worked in a lot of the old SNES mechanics from stuff like March of the Black Queen or whatever. Which leads me to wondering, when it comes to Denham over there, like in his last round he had the points to heal, and usually for any other situation he probably would have, but every time that he's got a chance to go knock out an undead unit, he seems to want to take it. Which, I mean, you know, good to know for the future, but it also leads me to wonder if maybe he's got that thing that the March of the Black Queen AI had. Wherein they'll always target the undead if it's available when you set them on a healer kind of situation. I mean, it seems a little too oddly specific, but then again, is it really? Like, given what we know from a lot of the other stuff? That's the question. Is it really too oddly specific to be there or no? I'm not sure. Now, if only we could tell them target leader, but... oh well. Again, you know, so far so good. He'll probably heal himself eventually.
Unless you fancy joining our undead army.
Oh, you're one to speak. I'm pretty sure we got way more of one, man. This guy does hit pretty darn hard, though. Largely on account of those 2 cards, but anyway. You know, they're having less and less units every round, as long as Denim heals himself. I mean, they literally can't do anything about this. So it's just kind of if they can target him in any way, which is literally just the dragons. So hopefully he decides to heal himself at some point. Anyway, back to it. Oh shoot, okay. Got here apparently just on time. So, okay, Denim was down. Not sure how much of a timer he had left, but either way, whatever, they eventually got it. So, yeah, that's one step closer. Okay, so we know they can deal with other zombies, but we need some kind of exorcism method is the problem. Although, that being said, there's stuff that can charm in POTD, namely fairies and such. A self-exorciser with... I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to switch him into something else, though. I mean, for one thing, the main reason I had missile abilities on him was for the purpose of recruiting. So definitely need to take those off there. But yeah, that's one step closer. So let's go ahead and see how they do in the Fens, I suppose. Do you need him here? Apparently he really wants to lead them there. Let's see, you're training, so we might as well do that. What about you? Probably take you out of there, because, I mean... yeah, we don't really need him there. And somebody else is at the frickin' door. Okay, be right back. Alright, and back. You know, it just occurred to me, there is one thing that we're definitely going to have a problem with, which is getting the POTD or door open. I'm trying to think if there's some way we can... I mean, so thinking about it, okay. So kind of like theorizing about this stupid door. If we make it that far, obviously during that fight is going to be... that thing is going to be a pain to begin with, but if we do it during the story fight, right, we switch Denim over to a Mender AI, we leave the entire rest of the team as zombies. Now, this is assuming that they don't have any exorcists, and assuming they don't get too close to the hole, because part of the problem with this potential strategy is maybe losing, I'd say, a quarter to half the team right from the get-go. Because essentially what we'd want to do is, like, the way that the AI would potentially see it is that they would try to kind of hold off the front and maybe kind of get squeezed towards what would be their right, so kind of towards that door there, so that's kind of towards the center of the map. Or, sorry, the top left, not center. Right? So, like, let's say we set him up in a case where we switch him over to Cleric, he keeps trying to heal, everybody else keeps trying to keep him relatively safe, he keeps retreating. But the problem is that doesn't give him the jump height to be able to make it to that spot. We set up somebody else as a defender, so hopefully just one of the warrior units or something, maybe the archer, I don't know. But set him up as a defender, hopefully he'll try to protect the Mender in this particular case, which would then cause him to fly up to that spot and get up to that door. That's the current operating theory anyway. I mean, the main one that I was kind of worried about up to this point was going to be Cielo there, but again, he's basically got no support this time around, so that dude's way easier. Just like, for example, back in Farampa, the map with the 3 skellies used to be way the hell harder. So at this point, not nearly as much of a threat. Where the hell's Denim? Is he dead? No, he's right there in the center of the pile. Yeah, for some reason I'm having a hard time seeing who the hell is where today. Don't know. Either way, we'll worry more about elements kind of once we get there. Right now we just want to get POTD open, kind of make some progress in that direction. Ooh, we picked up a physical, that's good. It's one of them out of the way. Alright. And by the way, if we are in a situation where I want him to be recruiting, then I will be switching Denim over to manual for the purpose of recruiting, but nobody else can be manual. That's kind of the general rule of this whole thing. One bit that I did catch that I didn't throw any commentary on was a little bit after canceling the recording, you know, kind of partway through that gunfight there. If a unit, like for example what's his face, friggin' Barton guy, if he comes back from being unconscious, and he goes for the dagger instead of casting, that actually ends up working out particularly well. So most of the time he's running around trying to hit things from far away, but he comes back to life, tries to stab stuff with that dagger. There was an upgraded dagger that dropped a couple of fights ago. I just kind of threw it on him because, haha, he's the knife guy now, but, I'm wondering how much of an effect that had on that particular fight, but, anyway, that's handy. Trying to think what else we can optimize about this mess, because, the poison part basically handles itself. That's why we went for the whole Vile Wound setup here, because, again, high health doesn't really matter, defense doesn't matter, evade doesn't matter, poison is poison, it just melts them away from the inside. So that tends to work out really well in terms of both dealing with kind of enemy logistics there, as well as also continuously doing damage when the AI is derping around somewhere. Trying to think what else. It's this works. The splash thing works for wasting their resources. The poison thing works for wasting the resources and dealing with defense. The archer thing works for dealing with their support in the meantime. So all of it's doing well enough. Actually, I need to switch that crossbow out. That's what it is. I need to switch that crossbow out for a longbow. Because I did the crossbow just to get him to unlock his Brimstone Hail, if and when we need that. I don't think we need it, and we have other units that would benefit a lot more from that crossbow. Ideally, for those maps where there's dragons farther away and whatever else, I expected to use that heavy crossbow for the purpose of maybe taking some snipes on those dragons before everybody else gets close. Again, it's not perfect by any means, but it is a solution. Just kind of hopefully deal with them a little bit sooner. Part of the reason that I always recommend using poison over something like dragoons is because if they kill, great. If they don't, they've suddenly become a lot stronger. Whereas if you hit them with poison, they only get a little bit of MP out of the process, and if you use the finisher, they get no MP out of the process, or if you did a cast, they got no MP out of the process. And they're realistically going to take as much damage as they did from the Dragoon hit without getting their breath moves suddenly spammable, Otherwise, if they get hit by a Dragoon hit and they live it, then immediately it's just like breath 2 all day. So that is that. I'm not sure many folks potentially realize that in terms of yes, a big damage number, impressive, but big damage number come with big downsides. Okay, yeah, there's really nothing left of this fight. They're just going to wrap up at this point. Alright, back to it in just a moment. Alright, so at this point we have the choice of doing Lausanne, or doing the Lasagnian Fortress, or doing Palace of the Dead. So, thing with Lausanne, we already know that there's an Necromancer there. He's probably going to be a problem. We don't really have any way to deal with the actual, exorcism map beforehand, aside from just raw DPS and leaving it on for, 3 days. So, yeah. Let's go ahead and go for this. Again, first two, I expect just, nothing out of this, because these guys are going to splash, these guys are going to shoot, this guy's on longbow, this guy's on sword. Let's go throw you over here, I guess. Do we have any other dudes? Yeah, probably replace you with you. I don't know what you are, but I'm sure... Yeah, there we go. He's a stabby guy. That'll do. So, I have a few kind of things that I've thrown in here for good measure. I'll probably replace you with you. And by the way, we'll throw some XP charms on these guys later on down the road to at least get them up to 30, so they... Actually, we can probably do that right now. Just to throw them up to 30, just to give them one more finisher. Because it's going to be a couple for each one, so that's 230. It's going to be a slight boost. Just to 30, though, so that they're still lower than everybody else, just as long as they have access to, third-tier finishers. I could have waited a little bit longer to recruit the zombies, but whatever. It's not like we got any other use for these. Everybody's capped anyway. But again, as long as their stats are lower than everybody else, they will be targeted more often, making them a fantastic sponge. But mostly because those knights are going to get access to an AoE down the road, meaning that if they survive a round or two, then all of a sudden they can do their big icy AoEs. Now, if we get access to necromancers down the road, that would be particularly handy.
Well, this was unexpected.
Neat. Moving on. So, she's at 34. She's going to be pretty consistently hitting with those AoEs. I did end up swapping out Acid Snake over to an Earth Element, just to have slightly more Earth Elements. Granted, then I realized immediately after that we have plenty of Earth Elements already, so screw it. We don't really have any air on this team, so that's something that we want to address at some point. Do these guys actually have anything that I want to recruit? Because they should be all at 32s. I don't think spell-wise there's anything too special going on here. MPs, stuns, poisons, again, just stuff that they won't really be able to use. Ease, which we won't be able to carry over until the shop unlocks it. Oh well. Anyway, plus side though, once we get down to, for example, tier 2 summons and things like that, those are perfectly available. It's just the tier 1s that are currently unavailable. So we'll get to those when we get to them. Bow-wise, we should be able to upgrade to a Crescent fairly early down here, which should be a pretty decent spike for the long bows. From there, as far as other weapons go, we're going to have a few scatterings here or there, but no one's really going to benefit as much from a weapon upgrade as the casters, which should get mega stabs down here, and the archers who can get their Crescents. So there's that. I'm trying to think what else is available. Actually, weird thing that they actually changed in the first patch. The Crescent, when it first, like back in the very first patch, was considered a relic. Even though it wasn't upgraded like a relic, it was colored like a relic for whatever reason. I'm not sure if that was... It probably was just a random oversight, but oh well. Okay, so yeah, now we just do the same old thing where I go clean some random crap in the background and leave this running for half an hour. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and commentate over every single one of these. See you soon. Alright, so this is like 10-ish minutes in. Let's do some observations. So splashers seem to be doing their job well enough. They haven't really cleared out very much here, though. Seems like the clerics are still able to do their job because they can't seem to concentrate their damage in one area as of yet. Maybe I should put some of those missiles back on some of them, given that this is basically a shooting gallery here. Yeah, man, Denim is refusing to heal himself, which is just kind of bizarre. I don't know what's up with that. Because, like, it seems like last time he refused to heal himself, typically the AI is in a position where if their health is under 70% and they have the option to heal, and, for example, like in most cases, he will just go and attempt to heal himself. In this case, he seems to have just gladly sat there at half health and gotten his ass kicked, so... Alright, that's something to address. Yeah, I might just entirely switch him over to Cleric then, if it's going to be like that. Because Cleric's going to have access to better resistance gear anyway for this kind of situation. Alright. So they're going to have a few that are going to be coming back. I don't think this is still winnable for him. Theoretically, like, if this was on manual, you could just charge those ones down there, like, in and just deal with Falfaday, but yeah, that's not looking too realistic right now, but you never know. Weirder things have happened, I suppose, especially if they happen to all hit the same place at the same time. The problem is that, yeah, they don't seem to be doing a whole lot of that. Potentially some crit cards would obviously help them, but you can't really control that. That's just going to be random. What else? Well, missiles definitely seem to be doing the job as far as them isolating down certain units, especially considering that they're going to be in similar locations with similar elements. I feel like it's really just down to Denim's odds of survival here, so technically one other way that we could go about this, rather than going Cleric, would be to switch him out for Sword and Board. Could potentially help out here. Mostly, so the reason that I'm saying this is just because, like, he's going to end up being dramatically tankier as a Rune Fencer, obviously. You know, conserve MP and all of that. But then again, if he has less movement, that could potentially be beneficial here, too. I don't think we'll ever find a copy of Exorcism, because, again, nobody friggin' carries it, so... Unless it's there as a random, like, mission completion reward or something, I just don't think it's something that we'll see. What else could we improve here? I mean, we could go for the manual recruit approach, probably. But, I don't know. Feels a little bit, like, we've already got the team. Unless there's somebody I specifically want to get for some kind of new unlock or something, I don't necessarily want to do it outside of AI. Because that's supposed to be the point of the challenge here, you know? Alright, there we go. Now he picked up a crit. How's that going to look? about the same. I mean, once he ends up fully critting, that'll be a different story. Yeah, interestingly enough, the splash AoEs on something like a basic wizard there, just due to the fact that they take their turns a lot faster, can be some pretty generally solid numbers once they get crits rolling. I mean, that basically applies for any casters in general, but either way, if you get, like, generally speaking, the kind of tipping point is around 3 or 4 of them. But if they're all targeting in the same location, they can splash really effectively. It's just getting them to coordinate that's the problem. Alright. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty convenient wipe. Like, this will realistically just keep on going until they eventually... Is that going to be the last guy? No, we still have one more somewhere. Where do we even have one more? I don't even see anyone else on the map, aside from those guys that are about to come back. Or do we have one of the witches up there? Or no, we have the Terror Knight over there. Okay. So if they managed to get close, it would be something. But if they haven't seriously managed to run down those stairs in 10 minutes, that's truly something else. Okay, let's try theorizing a new team loadout then. And go from there. So first things first, sword board. Did we get anything different weapons-wise for you? We didn't get any swords, so just shield. Just shield, no weapon. Okay, you don't even have one of those. What can we get for you from this team, then? Yeah, you're not currently doing anything with this. There we go. Didn't quite mean to go to her there. So there we go. Put this on, and probably if we just give him no weapon skill whatsoever, it'll end up being an improvement here. Maybe even just put on Insight? Maybe just put on Recruit, to be honest? Concentration in case he somehow misses something? I'm wondering in what world would that actually help. Whatever, resist Petrify just to run it once. What about these? You get anything useful for these? Probably no. Literally all you gotta do is just stay alive. So that'll do fine there. You... Do I want to run crossbow on you? Because AoEs here might actually be very helpful, but... Actually, I think if we take Slumber Shot off you, that could be useful. Because they're going to be splashing a lot, so there's no sense in worrying about getting those numbers up. Yeah, you're fine sword and boarding. Maybe take the missiles off so that you charge in more, but you're already reasonably well charging. You are not doing very much that's useful, it would seem. Actually, replace Rampart Aura, probably with Fearful Impact. Maybe even replace Lament with that. See, I was thinking originally, like, Lament would be really good because, obviously, AI stuff, but they haven't really been doing very much with it. Okay, so we have that set up. Maybe more archers? So yeah, he's gonna be fine. This guy's gonna be fine. I almost feel like we just get rid of these guys and replace them with more archers. Because they've got a lot of earth down there. We want as many air as possible, so... Seems like a no-brainer, really. And actually probably swap you out for bows. I know your skill is in crossbows, but whatever. Run 3 archers. Leave the zombies out front. Leave the Archies back here. Leave the one threatened Archie back here. This guy can hopefully heal them both. Then again, if we want to do the whole immortal team thing... Let's see. Who's got better decks? You've got 45. You've got 46. You've got the skill, though. Do you have the power? Alright. So let's go ahead and put this one in. So pop you in there. You got your heals and what have you. So ideally the plan is she heals. She needs to do less mercy and more blessing. There we go. Alright, so with that, the plan is that these guys run up, they do their spammy thing. We rely on these guys, and we're actually just going to leave her at her current level. We're going to rely on these guys to hopefully, like basic archer goes up, they take some hits, hopefully retreat, get healed. The other guy focuses on healing, cleric focuses exclusively on healing. That whole little kind of thing between them hopefully should act as a lightning rod to let everybody else come back to life. That's the theory anyway. And, yeah. Alright, back to it. I'll be back when that happens. Okay, so clearly that went well. Where the hell is my... Oh, yeah, my controller. My controller is my computer. Looking around for a controller. Like, how do I press the buttons? Like, oh, you just pick up the computer itself. Okay, so, new plans. Let's... What do we replace then? Because he's gonna cleric just fine. Technically, we need more offense, less so than survivability. So what if we throw you in? Do we throw some more human units in is the question. Actually, you know what? Scratch that. What if we did Swordmaster on this? Like, throw that guy out front. He does his whole, you know, spinny dancy crap, and maybe that gets us somewhere. Worth a try, you know? Worth a go. There's a lot of something wrong. What exactly is their team? I want to say it's a lot of ice and things. Lightning, maybe? No, not lightning. I think it's all, like, ice and water or whatever. So that will do there. I feel like if they are water, we do need... Instead of poison, we get more DPS on this. Get our budget Gandalf in there. You know what? Screw it. Good enough. Let's just do that. Let's turn it into a full-on wizard war. And, okay. So at this point, I'll actually just go ahead and once again leave it to do its thing, because this time not because I'm actually going to clean more things, but because I need to have some lunch. And I figured the only proper way to do a run like this is simply to get a plate of ham and cheese and some crackers and call that a lunch. Yeah, anyway, see you in a moment. Alright, so that went great. Let's go ahead and try again. So what I was noticing is that, yeah, their speed is mostly what's lacking here. We need to become speed. So, here's what I'm thinking. First of all, Pierce, get the hell out of here. What the hell is your purpose here? Okay, so, Brixmore with Phalanx. That'll do the job fine. We need more Phalanx in some capacity. In fact, you get replaced by another Phalanx Knight over here. Are you a Phalanx? No, you're a... Why the hell do I have Sanctuary on you? Alright, whatever. Spreading the damage won't necessarily help very much, but we're gonna have those guys try to spread out a little bit. Next up, you are already running Sword and Board. You'll be fine. His issue is still definitely getting friggin' steamrolled. Some of these other pieces of equipment can give him some decent defenses, although physical defenses are uniform, so what exactly could we do to improve that situation a little bit? Because we got Slashy, we got Stabby. What can we do Slashy defense-wise? Because we got nothing on that, and it's not like we have much of a choice anyway. So we got Crush and we got Pierce on that. You got 2% on that, 1% on that. Not like we have any other options here anyway. This is going to up that to 3%, so that's an improvement. So we got 4, 7, 9, and 12. Well, 13 with us. So either way, 13% of resistance on those splashes. It's still like only like 10 damage off. We can actually remove this and switch him over to Crush. What does that look like? That gives nothing here. It's just gonna be hard defense here. So let's... Yeah, we can't switch that. We can't switch that. Could go 2% and elemental resistance here, which would help with all of the earth. Okay, so that could be something. And then some Crush over here. Well, if we switch over to... I know one of these had universal people resistance. I want to say that was some of that leather stuff. So if we switch it to this, yeah, 1%, 4%, 6, plus potentially 8. So 6 to 8, and then 8 to 10. Okay, so that's just going to be plain worse in every regard. Okay, never mind. What else can we do? Because if we switch them over to robes, we can go Crush on that one. That'll give potentially more universal resistance. That's just going to be that resistance. That's going to suck. Yeah, we can't access nomads right now. This will give something or other. Alright. That sucks. What else do we have? Concentration, recruit. I mean, we can go for the recruit strategy. I guess that might be just the way to go here. Alright. We'll give the recruit strategy a try, and then also, the other thing I wanted to try is Naked Wizards. So, get rid of those, get rid of those. You don't need gloves, you don't need pants. You just need to distract them a little bit, you know? Make them more tempting targets, and make them faster to revive, faster to act. That's kind of the plan here. Alright, and then we just do that. I guess technically, yeah, again, the rule was we can control denim, the rest have to be done without him. And realistically, if all we gotta do is keep him backwards, then I guess we might as well, right? Alright. So we switch him over to manual because, so, to briefly explain what's going on here as to why he's on Mender AI, but he's deciding to charge in instead. So, again, while we don't know exactly all the specifics for all this stuff, I think it's, if I can get a turn here to show this real quick, I believe the way that it works is a little bit like this. The AI essentially sees all of these different teams as just like two circles colliding with each other. And effectively, the way that we're looking at it is essentially the Mender stays to like roughly the back of the circle and heals, and then the ranged attackers go off to the sides. The defenders kind of stay around the front line, and then the actual bubble is getting pushed by the attacker variant. The AIs on the enemy side are different and sometimes custom. So, essentially, because this is all a bubble, if a Mender, for example, is in the back row and everybody else has been pushed forward by the attacker AIs, or, for example, they tried to reach out a little bit in order to reach somebody, then they might potentially be seeing a situation where they just don't understand what's going on, and they're like, hold on, I gotta catch up to the rest of my team, even if I'm the only valid healing target and I'm way back here. So instead of sticking back, they'll try to catch up with everybody else, putting them within range, because the AI isn't always good at figuring out stuff beyond their range. So for example, like right now, if we were to fire a longbow unit, as everyone's done on this map before, we would essentially just run up to the cliff and probably get rid of a few of these casters before they ever got close, just using the extremely extended range on those bows. Now, to get around this, they gave extend to archers this time around, so, you know, they get to do some stuff. They get to extend their range every now and then, but they still will usually not fire beyond range. There's some cases where they can, and, you know, like if they're on top of walls, sometimes they'll be able to see beyond that. But generally speaking, when it comes to these really extreme ranges where you can get, like, you know, 10 plus extra tiles on their range or whatnot, they won't be able to calculate that. It is just simply outside of their normal range. So, either way, there's that. And additionally, since I switched Denim over to Lightning, he's getting pounded by all of the Earth abilities they got going on, so that's really not helping us out much either. But technically speaking, if we were to just strictly support from back here, then this would be perfectly fine. So we're just gonna kind of go back to the original rule set of we can control Denim for story fights, but for everything else we just have to use AI, or we can use Denim for recruiting purposes. You know, those kinds of situations. Because, yeah, there are certain situations like boss fights and what have you, where the AI will just simply act weird. And this is one of those cases where, you know, you got essentially a bunch of long-range units that will constantly outrange you because of the fact that the AI cannot fire beyond their normal range when it's this much of an extreme. So, either way, we'll figure that out. Actually, one thing that is... there's a little bit funny for this, is that when it comes to boss fights, one of the things that kind of originally inspired this run, and kind of a lot of the ideas in general for this kind of stuff, was when I was doing all those various archer tests and what have you. There was a moment where I randomly found the, like, Cash Pershara, or whatever the hell, the ice axe, like the Heaven General ice axe, because I'd forgotten there were even any Heaven Forks in the inventory, and was just throwing those AIs out there, just kind of seeing what would happen, just seeing what issues they ran into, can the AI make effective use of archer units, that kind of thing. And again, it was really surprising to me that in some cases, you know, they like let's say they run into a map of all dragons, and if they don't get lucky and roll a bunch of charms or something, they would simply, you know, they would simply have a hard time versus those dragons, as many units would. But it was kind of surprising to see this Heaven General boss fight coming in where pretty much out of the blue, they were able to clinch out a win with surprising ease. And so I had gone and, just, saved that on a separate save, because obviously I wanted to keep that axe. It was a nice, pleasant surprise, given how friggin' rare they drop. And so I had gone and ran it again, and again, and again, and again, and kept getting the same result. And it was simply, that's kind of when it clicked in my head of like, oh wow, these elemental finishers are really something else, because he is, the ice heaven general. They have a fire finisher. The finishers scale completely different from the way that their physical attacks do, meaning that these guys were essentially coming in and just fireballing the ever-loving shit out of his very icy party, and yeah, it was just a complete steamroll. So they could consistently end up winning this fight, and in most cases, I would say like 80% of the time, they were doing so without casualties, because they were simply fireballing this guy from a million miles away. Now, is that, a perfect approach or whatever else? No, obviously. But still, it was just kind of interesting to see there. And so, I don't know, I personally just really like seeing the AI do cool stuff in this. Would it be ideal to be able to give them more specific commands as far as where they should stay, all of that? Yeah, absolutely, but I just don't think they would have had the budget to do something like that, quite frankly. Despite the fact that something like the FFT AI is oftentimes put on a pedestal of like, here, look, it did everything perfectly, they made this incredibly complex AI. As far as I can tell, it's not necessarily complex as much as just it's got less parts to work with. There's not exactly a huge amount of units on the map. The maps are not particularly huge themselves. You attach a score to every one of those particular abilities, and, they kind of match the pieces as they will. Throw a little bit of randomness in there every now and then. There's no real defenses for them to work around. Throw in a few very specific things, like, will they revive under X or Y circumstances? Because, something like reviving an extra unit can oftentimes be seen as pretty important in that scenario. But still, the smaller amount of moving parts means that there's more that they can do. And there's really no part of the AI in this that I'm not really sure what else they could have realistically done. Because you can tell, again, a good example of this is going to be something like XCOM 2 there, where they do have, certain examples of a more scripted action in the AI, and people will always take advantage of it. Again, for better or for worse. Like, for example, when they put the DLC out for that one, where they added resistance units that'll fight on your side. It's something that a couple other games have tried before. But part of the reason that friendly AIs in a system like that don't necessarily always work is because they sometimes still have to still be active when something else isn't. So this leads to those cases, if you've ever seen those videos where, you'll show up to something like a terror mission there, and you'll see all of these rando, generic grunts that are supposed to be getting mowed down, running around taking free shots on all of these boss characters that you're supposed to be fighting from, while they haven't even activated. Because technically, they were supposed to activate when they saw you, and you are on the opposite end of the map. So they're just sitting there getting mowed down over and over because stuff didn't, quite pan out right, because there were too many moving parts, and obviously they can't account for everything. But anyways, I just thought that it was a kind of a funny example. Or, for example, those cases where something like a sectoid will always attempt to go for a revive on their first round. Well, that is to say, most of the time they'll go for a revive on their first round, which means that as soon as the sectoid shows up, everyone immediately knows, oh, shoot, this guy's no threat whatsoever. He's going to go for one of his mind abilities. I can go for the flank right away. I know exactly what this guy's going to do. And what's interesting is that they basically just designed the kind of lore around that they're like, here, all these guys are created in batches. They all think the same way. Cool. It's a cool way to do it. But yeah, actually, there was a funny interview with one of the Elder Scrolls devs when they had made a Terminator game, in which they were saying yeah, we had a weird bug where just the AI would randomly be able to glitch through walls. It's so we technically couldn't get it patched out in time, so what we did was go and just go write a thing in the manual, just adding to the lore of oh yeah, the friggin' Skynet figured out how to phase through walls. It's terrifying. Keep an eye out for that. And it's just like, at a certain point, you just kind of got to turn the bug into a feature, as it were. But yeah, apparently the quote from their boss was basically something to the tune of like, yeah, now you're thinking like a game designer kind of thing. Because obviously you can't account for everything, especially for stuff as, complex as this, where every class, every AI, every friggin' tile or whatever else is just going to have its own moving parts. In many ways, it's kind of unreasonable to try and even attempt to throw in this many moving parts, which is why we don't see this kind of stuff very often. But either darn ways, it is what it is, as they say. So, this seems to be going a little bit better. I mean, I can't say for absolutely certain, but, it's a little better. I'll probably just stay zoomed out. I was kind of pausing it to zoom back in. But yeah, they might be able to pull this off. All we gotta do is stall for time, and eventually somebody comes back to life. So, I mean... By the way, for the record, I'm not going to use Denim for anything that isn't a boss fight like this. Like, literally, he cannot participate. Unless he's recruiting, or unless he's on AI, or he's standing still in the back of the map like this, he's not going to be used for anything. Ideally, I'd prefer not to have him on the team at all. In this particular case, with this kind of map, with this situation where, it's going to be a boss unit that the AI doesn't necessarily know how to deal with, this is going to be one of those cases where if the AI is too stupid and keeps running forward, like if I could replace him with a zombie right now, we'd already be done with this map. This simply would be a case of just replacing him with more zombies, because it seems like most of those times where there were game overs, with exception to one of them when I shouldn't have thrown as many units out there, or living units out there, it seems like they could have just repeatedly kept reviving. And the whole point of this whole little exercise is less to show off and more just to give an idea of how far you can get with just absolutely basic stuff. In many cases, when folks end up getting burned out or whatever else, they might just be overthinking it a little bit. Because it really is like a mix of not nearly as simple as some assume, and then way more simple than others assume. Like, the entire thing is just built for misunderstanding, because it's kind of funny in that way. So now we just sit here, and we wait for more units to come back and do their thing, and see if they actually are able to pull out the numbers to make this happen, because there is a realistic possibility that they just simply won't. Like, does he get his meditate there? No. Then they're all going to get dragged over that way. Then there's going to be the knight, and then there's going to be that other knight, and eventually some of them are going to get a poison off, and then, one step at a time. Alright, and then she gets knocked out, and then we get somebody else, and it would be nice if I would be able to control the Vartan unit, because then it would be nice to go get one of those fairy units, which would make this so much easier, because I could just mass mind control stuff. But, oh well. Funnily enough, I don't think there's an AI that runs Virtuous Dance in this whole game. I know the Gremlins will run their variants of all this stuff, where they do the poison and the RT reset, but I think they thought, when it came to stuff like Virtuous Dance, that it was just too cruel to hit players with. For anyone that potentially ran unprepared into POTD and the PSP version. Like, it's funny, because on a numerical, how challenging are these units level, rather, it was way, way, way easier, but then when it came to the debuffs, man, oh man, they were such a force multiplier, it was kind of hilarious. And yet they always got constantly put down as being useless wastes of a turn. Like, it's funny, again, that's kind of one of those things that makes any discussion on this game a constant circle. I'm like, oh, it should be like this. This is the perfect, optimal way to do it. And like, well, no, here's a million reasons why that's dumb. And then here's a million reasons why my reasons that that's dumb is dumb. And it's like, you just constantly circle around, because there really is no right answer, if we're being completely honest. There's always going to be another complication. There's always going to be some weird wrinkle or some kind of thing that makes no sense. Again, the cards being probably the most obvious example of this, because like what's going on with these cards? They take something that was previously a long, boring grind and just turn them into something that's on the field. And yeah, for anyone that was a long timer that had been through that grind, they hated that grind. but for a lot of newer folks, they're like, oh, here's this theoretical pile of, you know, stuff that was missed. Has this game been Skyrimified or whatever? It's like technically both answers are both right and wrong. That no, it hasn't been. Like, it's been boiled down to some degree, but boiled down in a sensible direction. But, you know, try to explain all that in under 20 minutes. I tried. It doesn't get explained in under 20 minutes. You just, you know, stuff just kind of keeps on going and going and going. Anyway, as the rule goes, they can't touch denim here, so they will repeatedly keep coming back to life. And they'll keep doing this, and they'll keep doing this, and they'll keep doing this, until eventually we're out of the woods here. This does mean that potentially we're going to run into some way worse issues on the actual difficult fights down the road, but, you know, as it is right here, we're doing reasonably okay. Like, there's nothing that she can do. It's not like these guys can die, because, again, you know, same old thing of nobody carries exorcism at this point. This is a perfectly valid exploit. There's no pits to drop on this particular map, which is probably going to be the biggest issue over the course of all this. Once we get into some of the kind of tougher units, that's when we'll have to start worrying about recruiting more, because there are certainly more, you know, zombies and whatnot that I want to recruit in this area. Certainly more units that we'll run into. It occurs to me that what's-his-face, March of the Black Queen guys in the next map. So I guess that would be the only unique character that we can get over the course of this, though I'm not sure if there's any point in doing so. I forget if he comes with Draconics or not, but that might be a unique thing. Anyway. I'll come back once this is done doing its thing. Okay, so this is basically where I'm gonna have to leave it for today, but this has been kind of hilarious. So they've been slowly but surely, you know, carving their way through all of this stuff. But what cracks me up is the fact that this one enchantress in the center of the map just keeps waking up just to beat Falfaday with a stick. Her meditate just never seems to want to roll. She just keeps coming back up, just whack, dead, whack, dead, whack. Oh, it's great. Yeah, this is gonna be an absolutely soul-crushing run, just FYI. But yeah, still gonna be at least reasonably fun. But yeah, no, the basic math at this point kind of comes down that if they roll their meditate, that happens. If one of the melee units does their thing, you know, they do their thing. Denim just runs back and forth, doing absolutely nothing, attempting not to get targeted. As far as everybody down there, they just keep coming back pretty darn regularly. We just take away their more useless items, give them a little bit more speed. Their armor's getting broken pretty significantly anyway, just because of the fact that they're going to be pretty reasonably outclassed by this team here, since it is technically a boss fight and all that, and their equipment isn't resisting this stuff much anyway, so the speed's just going to benefit them more. Basically, if your armor is enough to prevent a kind of full breakthrough, then it's worth carrying around, but if it isn't, then it might not be. In the case of the caster units here, it's giving them a slight bump upwards, so it's at least worth doing in this case. Because, you know, that little bit of extra RT is going to be enough to help out. I mean, like, it would help out in terms of, like, the gloves and the pants, which aren't really giving them any direct benefits, but if they are getting some benefits, it's at least something. Archer guy just happened to land on a few cards at this point, so he's throwing out 300s every time he shoots. So that's been pretty handy, which again is one of the reasons that I wanted to put a couple longbows into the team here. Just because, again, while they do get that reputation for, you know, lower damage and stuff like that, they do have cases where they absolutely shine. And being a zombie is definitely going to be up there in terms of just they come back and they can immediately act. They don't have to roll on a meditate or anything along those lines. And because their movement is lower than the others, they're going to be really handy to make sure, you know, that they're staying in one spot instead of wandering around all the freaking map. I definitely should have picked up more warrior units, though, if that would have been a possibility, but oh well. Probably should have picked up those tamers too, just because we'd have those silence blowguns, which would be pretty handy right about now. Would be able to maybe throw out some silences on these guys, but oh well. you know, details. We'll get more of those as time goes on anyway. Like, this is working out well enough. It's gonna take ages, sure, but they literally have nothing they can do about it, so yeah. And then occasionally they just come back to life, they do that, and then it's just right back to business as usual. I mean, it's not for lack of trying. They're certainly attempting to do stuff, but considering that Falfaday can't recover unless she actively goes and attempts to steal a zombie's health, which, you know, it'll work, but at the same time, she prefers to take those bigger hits on units that she's just knocking down that are getting right back up anyway. And yeah, we're just forcing them to play an endless game of whack-a-mole while they slowly lose health here, especially since they keep repeatedly stepping on tiles. And this will become even more so down the road, where more and more of the AI will be standing next to cliffs, and again, we'll bring back the longbows and things for that. Where we can essentially just tremendous shot stuff off of cliffs. Since heavies can be crit off of cliffs this time, this means that in many cases they'll simply open up with something like that. So like if you give a longbow an opposite element to a particular dragon type or whatever else, in many cases they will just simply open with attacking that thing, which gives them a decent chance to knock them off the cliff that they're standing next to. Anyway, that will be that, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next part. Oh shoot, one of them just randomly took out Falfaday. Neat. I was about to go step away, and sure enough, they just iced the boss. Sweet! Alright, what do we get out of that, anyway? Actually, that's really good. That's actually going to be our first... Ooh, and we got an upgrade to our axe guy, too, which actually, I guess our axe person is also our casty person, so not necessarily an improvement, because... you know, health steal and all that. Whatever, let's take a look here. What do we got? Because then again, if we gave this guy... Can he? No, he has one-handed axes. Okay, that won't work. I don't know why I even tried that. He'd be our main axe upgrade in this particular case, which... I mean... yeah, alright, whatever. That'll do well enough as an upgrade. What else, though? Right, the book. What are we doing about the book? So, we couldn't get a zombie warlock, and we can't use books on these guys. Who else can we use that on? It's just going to be familiars and warlocks. So, that's going to be our first kind of long-range item. Because the thing is, as you might notice right here, spell range +3, the book will be, or +1, the book will be +3, so... who do we give that roll to here? Because that guy's already got cudgels, that could be pretty handy. He's divine, though. Though that could be helpful here, though we don't have anything that matches his element. I gotta get going. Okay, so continuing on here, I just noticed something that I didn't notice the first few times around. Namely, for the at least for the story version of this, it seems like there's actually one of the SNES bosses that ends up spawning here. I don't know if this is an all-the-time thing. Again, I'm assuming they either just got quickly killed off or whatever else. But for those unfamiliar, in the SNES version, you would occasionally get yellow versions of bosses that would show up every few floors or so. And usually they would end up dropping Wind God weapons. They were dramatically stronger than everybody else, and as you can see here, they come in with a 10-level advantage. How in the actual hell these guys are going to manage to win this entire thing without exorcisms? Well, good question. But, technically, I have an idea. So, to start off with, I'm just going to leave them as is. There's a decent possibility that they might be able just to figure this out on their own. If they can't, however, I do have a backup plan, and that is to send in everybody that can hold a shield holding one, as well as some warriors with Muddy Strike. Okay, so first attempt is already a bust here. A couple of things to kind of note. Yeah, overall, it's not that the plan couldn't work. So far, it seems like there was a little bit of progress, but unfortunately, as soon as Denim went down, obviously our death clock started here. But we did take out a few units here. I completely forgot that the Gorgon at the very start there is actually friendly, so we might be able to take better advantage of that. But Okay, so here is the new plan for this attempt. Basically, obviously, since Denim still has to be here, he still has to be here, but switching him over to Scorpion again in order to give basically everyone a shield, and the idea is, hopefully, maybe they will use these shields. Okay, so, update for the middle part here. This actually seems to be going pretty okay so far. Did end up losing Rudlum at some point, apparently, but, yeah, so far, one of the dragons appears to have been knocked into a hole. At least two of the skeletons have been knocked into a hole. Yeah, the strategy is working, and I'm thinking we actually might just stick with this going forward, because aside from those skeletons up top, yeah, this is working, especially... I don't know how this is going to work with that Gorgon over there, because eventually, if they start focusing on our units instead of the Gorgon, like, our guys shouldn't target the Gorgon, but if and when that ends up happening, then potentially she might be able to actually wipe everything down there, and then that should be the map cleaned up. Because we're starting to get a numbers advantage at this point. So let's just go ahead and do the usual here. Just sit and heal and hide in a corner. This is basically what I've been doing with this guy. So the only exception that I've been doing to that is actually I realized that it actually was a pretty solid idea to body block stuff. So, for example, with that dragon, there were two units on one side, one unit on another side. I just sat him next to that other unit. Technically, it's not attacking, so whatever. He's still using the AI. Unfortunately, he is still forced for this part. Okay, there's only a few fights that he actually should still be forced for. Okay, so in a little bit of a weird twist, this attempt might be completely scuffed because one of the wizards decided to... kind of AoE the Gorgon, so it seems to be attacking both sides now, so we'll see how that goes, but she just kind of one-tapped a dude, so there's that. For those that missed it, this essentially the golden units come in with 10 levels over everybody else, which, you know, once you have relics and things, isn't the biggest deal in the world, but, like, in this particular case, it's pretty noticeable. So there's that. Anyway, so, yeah, we'll, hang on, let's give it one more turn and see what she decides to do. That might have just been an AoE fluke. I'm really hoping it was. She didn't, like, directly target the guy, she just had him in the AoE, so, what are they going to decide to do here? I mean, I guess they're just kind of universally destroying everything on the map. Oh, well. Overall, this should still be a net benefit, because, I mean, I think we have more units around at this point. Let me see. Like, we're losing more, but we're also faster. But let's see, we got one... Yeah, we definitely have more units, only by 2, but you know what? This should still work out, especially if that skeleton happens to get knocked into the hole at some point. It's just going to be a weird endless mosh pit at this point, but let's see what happens. Alright, so current plan is looking a little bit like this. I'm figuring if I go ahead and get Denim out to the very back of this kind of walkway area, there's a possibility that the remaining team inside will continue trying to pull kind of up to defend him, because they like to do that whole viewing everything as a circle thing. So that's the hope at this point, that I can kind of trade it into being Gorgon versus everybody else. Gorgon gets overwhelmed, then they kind of proceed on this way. At which point, then we can hopefully see them start getting knocked off the cliff and stuff like that. Either way, that's going to take a while, so back to it. People, we are making progress. Stuff is getting knocked into holes, and this is actually working. So basically, the knight over there is managing to hold everybody in place. The Gorgon, in this case, is actually going and properly attacking things. I switched the AI... the AI that Smelly Deneb is using into Mender, hoping that they would pull back a little bit more, and they did. So thankfully that seems to be working out pretty darn well. But yeah, we now have him all the way back here, and they're slowly trying to move back to support him. They're doing it at about the efficiency of a headless chicken, but still, this is getting somewhere. You know, they're flailing about, but we're making progress. We've knocked units down. We've gotten some... at least one more unit out of play. And yeah, stuff is happening. Slowly but surely, stuff is happening. And this is, again, just kind of how we're planning to do this thing. Also, I love how even with a 10 level advantage, she still only does 1 damage. even with a fizz card. But again, that's just cudgels in general. That'll be a challenge run of its own at some point of just finishless cudgels. Which actually I wonder what folks would like to see more. Completely unarmed or finisherless cudgels, because it feels like both kind of have their own merits. Also, just in case something somehow manages to snipe him, I'm going to move him up into the poison tile. Just because for some reason I have a feeling that something's going to manage to long-range snipe him way back there and just knock him off the cliff. Would prefer not to chance it. But yeah, all we need right now is for not that, because now, okay, now they're not going to be able to quite get by. So hopefully it's still solvable. So I would really prefer if she would stop standing nearby that cliff, because I'm pretty sure we'll lose Smelly Deneb at this point. All these guys downstairs here just keep knocking each other out over and over. It's a complete stalemate. No one can kill the other. It's literally just down to getting them nearby this cliff. Yeah, they just keep knocking each other down. It doesn't matter if they one-shot each other, if they 20-shot each other, they're making no progress, so whatever. Also, I love how these toxic tiles seem to actually have a RT count that's completely independent of anything else. So, like, uh-oh. Okay, well, never mind, it's all evened up now, but, Smelly Deneb is gone, unfortunately. But, yeah, as far as all this stuff goes, it's... I don't know, we'll see. This is still a work in progress. I was really hoping that finally was some progress being made. But neither side can currently win, and basically anytime one side gets knocked down, the Gorgon comes in to try and finish everybody off, and then they fail to do so, and then more units come back, and then this just repeats itself forever, until eventually, hopefully, the dice line up, and, you know, we're all good to go here. And yes, since their weapons are completely taken off, obviously they're not doing very much damage, but again, you know, cliffs, so I would prefer to kind of guarantee that they use them. One thing at a time, though. But yeah, so these toxic tiles, these actually used to just function the same way as in Venom back in PSP, which they still seem to have similar levels of damage on them. I mean, these, I say toxic tiles, they're more mold tiles, but still, they're definitely more of a very, very passive way of doing things this time around. Like, poison in this one is 10% kind of split between three ticks per turn. Whereas the poison tiles seem to just be working on their own set of rules entirely. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so here's the plan for the current bit here. So I'm hoping that when it comes to Zadoba and whatever else, that they can just sort of handle her. So current plan is basically just to run Denim towards the door. We just open up the door and... oh, wait, he's way the hell down there. Okay, that's problematic. Yeah, I totally forgot about that part. He should be fine. Probably. Maybe. I mean, she's gonna... okay, she's just buffing. So, realistically, all we gotta do is kind of get him down that way. Probably eventually do the whole speed-up thing with him. Yeah, the rest of these guys, unless they get close to those sides, they're basically immortal here. Like, this fight is one of the harder ones, but realistically, she's also one of the squishier units here. So as long as the door opens up and he stays alive, this shouldn't be the worst thing in the world, especially considering that most of these units are mortal. So there's that. The skellies on the side, not so much. I mean, the orcs and lizards in the center are the main ones that are going to end up going away over time. And yeah, the hope is that they can just sort of sort out this fight very eventually, and hopefully eventually Zadoba ends up going to the front if she gets herself poisoned. I'm pretty sure she can be poisoned. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem there. Basically, if she gets hit with a couple finishers, she's done. So we're more or less just buying time until that happens. So that's the hope anyway. The rest of these guys will just sort of scatter fire and do as they do. Hopefully end up picking up some good cards along the way. If they don't, they don't. But that is the general game plan here. So I'm just going to kind of continue on here until we get Denim to the door. And then from there on, he's literally probably just going to stay in one spot. I want to keep them away from those holes as much as possible, so I'm probably... do we keep him up there, or do we keep him close to the entry door? The problem is, if we put him next to the entry door, we kind of run into the problem where he ends up being targetable. And he's going to get hit by splashes, like right there. That, oh, sweet Jesus. Okay, that's an instant restart. He got friggin' annihilated. Alright, that's something to pay attention to. Alright. Anyway. I'll just leave this until it's inevitable game over, and we'll start over from then. Alrighty, so a little bit of progress in terms of this thing. We're about to hopefully see right here. Okay, good. Okay, so the thing that was an issue last time is that Denim ended up getting pretty much immediately annihilated upon starting the fight, and that's because he was starting off as a lightning element. There was a water charm that had dropped at some point, so I just went ahead and switched him over into water, which seems to have sorted out that issue because he is no longer the most tempting target. Basically, that 30% bonus for hitting on element is going to be very significant in this particular case, and I was worried because there was a pretty reasonable possibility, which we're actually going to go ahead and buff these guys so that hopefully they can run distraction duty a little bit better. What I was a little bit worried about up to this point is that I might be able to, or that I might have to run Ninja on him to kind of let him get away far enough in this particular case, because he was, one way or another, he was going to have to survive 2 rounds versus Little Miss Gorgon over there. But so far, seems to be all good, and my hope is that I can run him up to the top of the map and that they can sort of just push their way through this whole thing. As long as somebody lands a Venom onto the boss there, they really shouldn't have a whole lot in the ways of recovery. Realistically speaking, we've got a far better kind of undead setup in this particular case. Their boss is really the only one that's super fast. So as long as somebody lands a poison on her at some point, she doesn't have a whole lot of recovery and support. That is going to be a running theme throughout a lot of Palace of the Dead, that they're just going to kind of be sort of a one-and-done kind of situation. There's a few cases where there's exceptions, like a lot of the blue unit maps where they will have more healing, but we'll have more options once we get there. In terms of the units that we could potentially hire here, we could potentially... I guess there's technically would be the option, theoretically, to go get a wizard class mark at some point to come back and get some lizards here, so that's maybe something to consider. Right now, I'm hoping that just won't be necessary at all. I'm hoping that we can get by with just human zombies and things. But we've already taken 1 casualty. We've got 99 floors to go, or I guess 98 floors to go. Yeah, we're going to be able to skip some floors, and yeah, we're going to be attempting to do Aircell and Hobram and stuff like that when we get there, but for the time being, you know, just clearing is going to be enough. Really, when it comes to stuff like Aircell and whatever, I think we'll be able to do that one just fine without too many issues, because you're not required to bring Denim. He's been the main kind of hurdle as far as this goes. Either way, so we're just going to continue pushing him back, and yeah, I will update when there's an update to give. Okay, so, minor thing here, but yeah, so far they actually managed to have some success. Actually knocked down the skeleton that was on this island over here. This guy was seemingly trying to go for this one over here. We haven't quite made it to the door yet. I don't believe that the Gorgon can be knocked down, but either way, they seem to be at least attempting to get these knockdowns. So either way, we're making progress. They did attempt also to knock our TK in the hole, but thankfully that didn't end up happening. But either way, so far, looking so good. They actually have already dealt with a lot of the lizards and orcs and things over here, so progress is happening. She can do it. Oh, should have gone for the shield. Oh well. Might want to take away the weapons from those guys, but the chance of silence seemed like it was worth it. It seems like this time around there's definitely a bigger focus from the AI when it comes to using their weapons over their shields. I think because they see the innate knockback chance on their weapon instead. Just a bit of a thought on that, because again, previously they would always target with the shield, so they will occasionally target if it's fast right now, but they always seem to see their weapon as having a knockback chance as it is. Either way, back to it. Alright, and we have made it to the door at this point, so we can go ahead and collect this. Go ahead and get this thing opened up, and yeah, that'll be that. So at this point, as long as they can go ahead and sort out the fight, and then we're all done here, and we can continue on. There we go. Get that achievement. Alrighty, good news, because this is happening. It's actually working. So the way that it's kind of come down here is that I've just hid Denim over here in the corner. He's just kind of running around doing his thing. But yeah, kind of sticking around this corner means that Zedoba kind of wanders around that center area of the map, but she keeps stepping on poison tiles, which means that while so far no one's actually targeted her yet, it doesn't really matter. She's slowly losing health over time. It's not very much because, again, you know, poison tiles rather than actual poison or whatever. But, yeah, little by little, they're carving through. All of the mortal units are eventually going down. The ghosts are repeatedly getting knocked down. Currently, none of the team has gotten close enough, aside from that TK over there, to actually be in any reasonable threat of getting knocked into a hole. So, you know, that's a thing. Really, the main worry at this point is that Zedoba will suddenly decide to run up and, you know, just kind of annihilate Denim out of nowhere. But given where we are right now, it's looking pretty decent and pretty possible, and especially considering that every time one of these fencers ends up rolling their meditate, they just get a free finisher, so that's handy. Yeah, I don't know how we're gonna necessarily... Well, actually, I do know how we're gonna proceed from here. We're gonna deploy all zombies and then walk away as the map completes itself. So yeah, that's gonna continue to be the point. The main reason that I wanted to get these few fights out of the way first is so that we can actually go back and get more zombies as needed, deal with any other logistics as needed, but as of so far, this is actually going a lot easier than I expected. I really expected this to just be, well, the complete nightmare. But yeah, so far so decent. I was a little bit worried that she would get sniped off the cliff there. Anyway, so this is going to take an egregiously long time still, but eventually Zedoba will end up succumbing to the poison, so we'll just end up having... Oh, crap, I thought there was a hole right there. I thought he got knocked off. That would have been pretty funny. Either way, you know, looking good. We'll update with the next thing. Wait, that actually worked? Alrighty, so I had a phone call that was happening when I kind of wrapped up the map here. So let's do a little post-chaos report here. So overall, we ended up losing 3 of the zombies to that particular map. They just kept getting knocked off. Looks like both of the wizards and one of the knights. I believe it was the male knight unit. So either way, we basically have 3 casualties by floor 3, which I know doesn't sound great, but here's the thing. These 3 maps in particular are going to be the majority of the actual, like, properly difficult maps up to this point, because again, bear in mind that these were the denim required maps, of which there's going to be a total of 6 in the entirety of Palace of the Dead. The rest of these are going to be ones that we can basically handle with randos, and the nice thing about being forced to use randos is that we don't have to, you know, worry about leaving one guy sitting there benched the entire time, you know, sitting and eating items or eating heals or whatever else, because, you know, he's required not to fight things. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into that as a bit of an example here, because this actually is looking pretty darn positive. So in this particular map, for example, looks like we got a dragon, we got actually we do have a recruit option down there with that, with this guy. So it's actually worth pursuing here. In fact, does he come with anything? He doesn't really come with anything particularly special, but I like to think that this is our zombie guy that just got knocked down here. So I'm thinking what we do, let's see, we've got a dragon over there, we've got an orc over there, we've got a skelly. I don't think the fight's going to end mandatorily here, so to speak. So first of all, we're going to keep one of our casties in here for fairly obvious reasons, and then also we're going to go ahead and... Do we want a dragon in here? I mean, this doesn't feel like a great idea. Why don't we just go ahead and replace them with... we don't want the Terranite in this one. What's this guy? Rune Fencer, probably one manual here. Just he'll be able to do that job particularly well. And I'm figuring these 2 will grind down the map, and then eventually Wizard Guy will end up getting to a close-by tile, and then we just simply talk to the guy. So that should do the job well enough. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with the strategy. This seems to be working. We will be able to get some replacement zombies as we go through here. If we really need to, you know, retreat and go pick up more hawks from Farampa, we can. As it stands, we haven't lost any of the hawks, and realistically, we shouldn't necessarily need that many. At least I wouldn't hope so. Again, this is kind of a strictly we'll kind of see how it goes type of a scenario. I don't know why I'm saying that weird. I guess my throat's just been weird. But yeah, either way, I don't expect that we'll need to make too many trips out of here. If we need to, that's fine. But again, as long as they're not denim required maps, they're basically grindable, as it were. So the current goal is just to make sure that we can comfortably get through those first 25 floors. The reason for this is because a lot of those kind of traversal rings are going to end up dropping here, and additionally we're going to see a like for example the she rings, the flight rings, and actually crescent bows as well are stuff that we're going to want to actually kind of get out of this area. There are a few other items, but ideally the traversal rings, for a couple of reasons. For one thing, the traversal rings are going to give us some of the kind of best available overall resistances that we can get. It's kind of up to this point that, like for example, early on in the game, hard armor threshold is going to matter quite a substantial amount, whereas around this point in the game, we're kind of getting to where it's actually potentially very viable to go for something like this instead. Now, in fact, I'm actually kind of tempted to say, you know what, it might be worthwhile to just retreat out of this map and farm it for a few extra zombie wizards, because we want 2 more. There's not really any rush to necessarily get through all of it at once, and there's really no reason to not just stop and replenish our stock, so to speak. So that's potentially worth considering. Hopefully he'll end up taking this guy out so we don't have to put Denim in a risky position. But either way, yeah, if we can just recruit our wizards out of here, that'll be pretty handy. I don't know what else can actually spawn on this map. Usually these early maps, like especially for Reborn, all I've done up to this point, like just in general through playthroughs here, is just literally throw units at it until it ended up farting out an item. There just hasn't really been much of a reason to consider anything otherwise, because again, you just kind of mass farm items out of here. You don't really get too many of the super fancy rewards or anything like that, so either way, there we go. We got our dude. Let's go ahead and get out of here then, and retry this map a few times, see how many of these guys we can get. In fact, let's probably reload it a few times and just kind of see what kind of stuff we find. Do we want to recruit this guy? Yes. Now that I have the keyboard in front of me, we can go ahead and do that. So he's going to be DP1. That actually sounds... Oh, shoot. That actually sounds weirdly dirty. Anyway, okay. Let's see what else we can find in here. Alright, so... let's see. Another wizard and an archer. Nice. Okay. I know it sounds weird that I get excited over zombie archers, but you've seen the kinds of stuff they can do so far. It's just, they're those units that really scale up well in very specific situations, and a lot of those specific situations happen to be stuff that I find particularly useful. Any darn ways. In fact, it's actually funny. I've been kind of going back and forth on one of the kind of strats for the speedrun there, which I don't know when this is going to come out exactly, but there was a poll for doing a bunch of speedrun stuff, and I've been doing speedrun stuff, but it's been one of those cases where I keep changing my mind on how to route one of the bits of it. And one of them specifically is on getting Sherry in the party, because you can very quickly get her into the party, but then I keep noticing, like, it's legitimately slower to have her as a witch than it is just switching her over to Beast Tamer and using grenades. It's bizarre. Like, with grenades, you basically go in and it's like, oh, you have a very sudden, like, guaranteed-ish 180 or so that's going to be in an AoE. You can instantly shoot it. You don't have to worry about MP or whatever else. It does cost money, which currently that run doesn't currently abuse the infinite money glitch. But, like, it's very oddly specific in that it ends up kind of locked in this very particular place where she's literally around just for the economics of it, but in most cases she's just a massive liability. In fact, most wizard units have been completely taken out of that team for that particular reason, that it's all like melee units, archers, and grenadiers at this point. But either way, still kind of going back and forth, because it feels like such a waste to not incorporate her in the party, but it's like, lady, what the hell are you doing? You're not really benefiting the team. Like the last bit of it was the Endorus fight, and basically, like, that one was able to clear out fast enough, but it constantly felt like it could be going a lot better. So I don't know. I went back and forth on that one a few times, but I'm thinking it may be worthwhile just to leave her there. But either way. Okay, so just to show this right here, because I just realized I didn't really get to explain the bit where we actually get to how the plan is to get to this archer. So, while the wizard guy just kind of wanders around up there, that part's pretty easy. This guy, well, this girl over here is a little bit harder to get to. But currently the plan is more or less to stand on this tile right here. There's multiple ranged units and what have you. You know, the griffins run around wind-shotting, the ranged units are doing their thing. Once those two get knocked down, this means that there is a constant chance with every attack to get knocked off this pillar here, which leads to going right here and then attempting the recruit. Now, realistically, this is going to have low to no odds, and this time around there was way too much damage to realistically, you know, expect this to succeed in any capacity, but, you know, it is what it is. So, I'm just going to go ahead and mash the hell out of that button so he doesn't get a chance to act before we do anything, and get the hell out of here. You know, if there's ever actually a wizard mark that ends up dropping anywhere, this actually would be a really good place to end up getting a free hoplite too. I never really even thought about it, but like, this hoplite over here is also just like everybody else in a close area, or in a fairly closed off area, completely isolated, just kind of sitting here being freaking amazing. And it would be awesome to have some evade units, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, currently, once we end up recruiting this archer, we've already replaced the losses from the previous encounter, and from there we can start going positive. So yeah, that's pretty handy. Like I said, there's a lot of things that you can just talk to down here, and while it would be great to have some lizards, I feel like we'll probably just be ending up running humanoids for the most part. Again, barring anything else that we end up finding down here in this hole for the time being. We'll see how that ends up playing out, but for the time being, it's looking like we've got what we've got, and what we've got is sufficient. We are still in the very early floors, but basically later on, the reason that we're going to be running zombies and whatnot is just pretty much stuff gets really, really dire later on down the road, especially around the 70s or so. It's kind of around where it peaks. Where you start seeing lots and lots and lots of heavies, and again, that's why we're running a lot of kind of basically immortal poison units. Which actually reminds me, I need to go fix their skill lists, because at the moment, they're currently in a position where they're doing a lot more Cherry Ronde than they are Vile Wound, which is completely unacceptable, but either way, we'll figure that out. Alright, see you in the next bit. Also, one more little kind of minor tech thing to throw out here, but this is one of those situations where shields are really, really handy. Basically, those situations where you picked up a crit card, you know, just kind of happen to have one in the way, but you needed to make sure not to crit something, but you still had the option to not really knock it into something more dangerous. Very oddly specific, but just to kind of throw it out there is something that we'll probably be utilizing a few things here, or a few times. I don't know, I'm saying utilize a few things, that sounds weird. Anyway, back to it. You know, one side benefit I didn't notice up till this point, these guys actually come with rings. Namely, stuff like Vitality rings for these guys, and Dex ring for these guys. So yeah, this is actually worth doing even without the other stuff at this point. So, freaking awesome. And looks like, yeah, we're coming in at 33, so we've already broken level cap. I didn't even notice. Fantastic as far as that goes. Trying to think if there's anything else we could utilize this for right now. Theoretically, we could actually start deploying the... I wonder if we start deploying them as they are. Like if we replace the other two characters with them, I wonder if we can maybe continue breaking the level cap a little farther. Not sure. Let's see if we throw these two out there, because it doesn't really matter who we have here. Let's give this a bit of a scout. There's another archer here, so if we throw this out here, their level still shows 33. If we actually deploy this, are they actually going to stay 33? Basically, POTD caps out at 40. Enemy units will be able to go beyond that, so we should be able to potentially be running, like, let's say, zombie Valks with nature power and whatever by the end of it. But, yeah, they're still at 33. Technically speaking, I mean, I don't think this one will keep scaling up unless... I don't know, this might be where this one caps out. I'm not actually sure off the top of my head, but either way, we'll keep doing this. I want to get at least a handful of each of these. Yeah, we'll go from there. So did I never deploy you for anything? I'm gonna set some of them to Mender AI to see if it really does cause them to hit undead units more, which would potentially be useful for, say, those situations where they maybe would prioritize knocking them off of cliffs. That might be a completely out there theory, but it's a theory all the same. Anyway, back to it. Okay, so kind of a weird thing here, but I was going and recruiting dudes, and oh, now you'll save? Okay, I was getting something called error 112, whatever. Okay, moving on. Never mind. Alright, so what we're going to be kind of attempting to execute on here is something that I was thinking might be a useful strategy going into this. I wasn't really sure if it really would be, but we're actually going to be abusing Prevailing Element this time around. So here's the shtick. Essentially, we can get one wizard guy right here. Like, he's just always right here in the front. Well, almost always. He's up in the front pretty consistently. He's got pretty low loyalty, so we're typically looking like at low health at like 20-30% recruit odds. That's pretty darn good. And yeah, this guy's here all the time. The archer's here some of the time, and they're all stacked for the same element. They always come in at just ice. Now, the cool thing about wizards and things like that is that they're able to, well, they're able to move faster than a lot of the other caster classes. So, by itself, that doesn't necessarily mean very much. Like, in terms of raw damage and things like that, overall, like, DPS-wise, they usually end up slightly edging out a lot of the basic casters in terms of just kind of, I guess, damage to RT ratio, if we can go ahead and give it a name. But generally speaking, you know, usually you're going to want more kind of immediate punch right now, so to speak. Oh, that was quick. Alright, cool. Let's go ahead and reset that real quick, get out of here, and give this guy another Detroit name, because I just figured, you know what, these guys are all going to be Ice Element. They're all going to be just kind of passively destroying everything. We are going to go for giving the Palace of the Dead the Detroit experience. So what do we want for this guy? I mean, technically it's somewhere else, but whatever. We're going to go with Chrysler anyway. We already have a Ford. Let's see, we're going to need to name one Lions. We're probably going to need to name one... what do we want to go with? I mean, whatever. We'll figure that out over time. Red Wings, I guess. Although that always... Okay, honestly, Red Wings never carried any weird connotations until moving to Michigan, and then somebody told me it had a really weird other meaning. Anyway, so yeah, the general idea here is that, yeah, every time that you're using a particular element, it's, that is to say, in any way that checks for scaling, you're boosting Prevailing Element in the background, which means that, like, right now, we could go ahead and check it, and it would be starting off at 20 dark, because we are, you know, in Palace of the Dead. It's always going to start off 20 dark here, and neutral to everything else. And so every time you're using it, it's like a 4 to 6% boost, give or take, in that direction. Now, it's not like scaling percentage, whatever have you. It's like it's a slight bonus in that direction. But due to the fact that they can act a lot faster than a lot of the other casters, and due to the fact that we can kind of just mass, like, 3D print these guys in bulk, it's kind of creating a situation here where theoretically we could create a mass attrition team. And especially, like, once we get permafrost bows down the road, I don't know how much it affects it, but I'm kind of curious if combining, like, I don't know, maybe 10-ish wizards and two permafrost bows or something might potentially be something worth considering. As I just figured we already have them here, so, you know, why not? But worst case scenario, Cherry Ronde, kind of in front of all of these ice casters, should be just absolutely demolishing things. So that's kind of the plan here. I don't know how soon we'll be able to replace these guys, so for now I'm just going to settle on maybe, I don't know, like getting like 15 of them, just to be safe. I just figured worst case scenario, you know, we can always just come back and do it some other way. But for the time being, this seems to be a nice kind of quick and easy way to handle this particular puzzle, just kind of have them available for the future. I mean, I just pretty much assume we'll be doing the same thing once we get past 25, because at that point we should be seeing far higher levels popping up, and, you know, we should be proceeding on at that point anyway. We can't exactly use experience charms on these guys. So, you know, just a bit of a thought, but, you know, we'll get there when we get there. We'll just go ahead and poison this guy, just so he'll get the hell out of our way. But anyway, so yeah, that's the idea. I suppose I should get back to it then, but yeah, every time that Conserve RT rolls, it's just, they're going to be doing a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and in theory, this should allow for pretty much overwhelming anything with attrition. That's the current plan anyway. Because in the future, while most of these spawns are going to be locked in, I would expect that it's going to be a bit more difficult to find something this guaranteed, where it's like, you know, right there in the center. So, anyway, later in the next one. Okay, so another update. I accidentally might have completed that map, but you know what? Here's the good news. Even though I accidentally completed it early, it looks like the next one also has good spawns. Namely, we have a warrior unit right here, so suddenly that gives us access to Vigorous, which means if we can... Wait, do we even have any secondary effect weapons? Damn, okay, that's not particularly useful. But, point being, Mighty Strike, Knockback, you know what? This is the same reason I was excited about Archers, but in this case, you know, they might do other stuff too. That being said, did they actually stack for Avoidance? Apparently they will still stack for Avoidance this time around. That's kind of neat. Yeah, they do actually stack for Avoidance. That is interesting. I didn't know they did that. But that being said, the Archer on this map has really high loyalty, so that won't necessarily help much. But this kind of attrition team actually works pretty neatly because, like, just due to the fact that they kind of need a crit card to be crazy threatening, they more or less just slowly attrit everything on the map. So in this particular case, all they got to do is just wear everything down. Now, it occurs to me that I kind of did this originally to get to Nibeth. He's not going to be here, is he? Because he's supposed to show up on this map, so why is he not here? Okay, that might be a concern for another day, though. Oh yeah, this is one of the new guys, so there you go. Put you as Mender. Put you as Mender as well, because they never got to see action yet. Oh, for goodness sake, did none of you get to see action yet? Okay, apparently all of them just got immediately just recruited. Recruited? They got recruited, there we go. But yeah, so, long range and all of that, and I know immediately there's going to be at least like one person like, oh, but this is why Shaman good. I know, dude, I know. Long range caster, you know, pretty decent, but long range unkillable caster, better. So yeah, they're all just gonna kind of keep doing their thing. I'm assuming I'm just gonna have to push through these guys. I don't really know how I'm gonna get to this warrior unit otherwise. The tiles on the right there, I would have to... I mean, it's possible to maybe go down the right side, but then that dragon's gonna be blocking the way. Down the center would require breaking that statue, which is gonna be a no-go. I'm hoping to just kind of go down this way, get the archer trapped off in the side, and maybe leave the warrior unit stuck in a poison tile or something. Ideally out of range of all those casters, who I'm hoping will kind of just draw all the aggro their way and just kind of keep everybody off on the other end of the map there. It's kind of the general idea anyway. I can't really say how well it'll necessarily work. But just out of curiosity, are we... Okay, so we're not quite to the point of having prevailing ice yet, but I'm curious to see how quickly that actually does end up shifting above 20. Because I believe it's 4 per cast, so roughly speaking, within 4 rounds... Well, let's see. No, 4 times 5, roughly within 1 round, we actually should see, should already see it tickling above that 20 there. Or does it start at 30? I think it does start at 20. I'm like 90% sure of that, but then I always end up circling back and questioning myself for good measure. Alright, so, let's see. Because, yeah, the finishers and different spell types all affected it to a different degree, but I feel like it was already... No, it's still showing Prevailing Dark. Yeah, I don't know. How many ice balls does it take to get to the center of this particular Tootsie Roll Pop? Who knows? Who knows? Then again, you know, I never actually did test if it... Like, I think it does stay at 20, but I never actually did technically test whether or not it, like, it tries to stay above the other elements. That'd be something. Highly doubt that it does, though. It just doesn't seem like a thing that would happen. Although Poison Breath, if we have a Beast Tamer mark... would be pretty... we already have access to poison and unkillable poison. Stop trying to recruit everything. You can't use every unit in the game. And I already kind of noticed that I'm probably going to have to use recruit on every zombie all the way down because, I mean, having used up the one warlock mark on just a rando generic, I can't really use them for recruiting, so that's not ideal, but it's certainly a thing that happened. Anyway, we'll figure that out. Yeah, kind of in the background here, I got some good news over a thing that I was trying to fix for a very long time, so I'm hoping, you know, hoping that'll be actually properly fixed. Too long of a story to explain that one. But anyway. Alright, how are we looking on prevailing? Still dark. How is it still dark? I mean, even if they're attacking and only getting one at a time, it should be doing at least 2. Because I know the highest end ones were 2. If we're assuming that they're still getting the lowest kind of stacking possible, that still should be about 2 per shot. Because it should be... there we go. Now it is going properly. So it's essentially 2 up for ice and then 1 down for fire. So the fire guy will be losing some of his maximum potential scaling, whereas all the ice guys would be getting an increase to their potential scaling. And this is particularly going to be noticeable for stuff like finishers, which once again causes swords to be the best choice this time around, just fencers and swords. Lots of infinite MP flying around, lots of infinite, you know, potential both damage as well as a cherry ronde happening, as well as poison in the meantime. It just seems the perfect way to go about it, and it also feels very appropriate considering that it was a nice spring day this morning, and now it's a blizzard outside, so, you know, very unfortunately appropriate. So yeah, like, you would do 580 at this point. We'll just go ahead and see if that ends up stacking up any higher next round as they continue casting, because I actually don't know to what degree it ends up helping. It's usually a few points, although that's going to give an averse. That's going to be pretty noticeable. Anyway, we'll keep around to there, see what it does, see what it looks like. So, cool thing that you can do, by the way, with a combination of conserve RT as well as taking off a couple pieces of their armor, what you can do with these wizard guys is just make them stupidly fast. Because as you've noticed, we've been, you know, stacking up very, 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 very quickly as this has gone on. And yeah, 608 at this point, which, yeah, that's with the averse. That's not necessarily anything on its own. Either way, get out of here. I'm trying to get, you know, trying to go and talk to that Amazon over there, if you wouldn't mind. Annoying gremlins. I'm gonna have to move over here, just so, in case it's something useful, because there was a ring of evasion that ended up dropping in the previous map, and I didn't end up being able to get access to it, because the zombie stole it, and I recruited the zombie and totally forgot that that's a thing. These things happen. But oh well. Alright. So, anyway, back to the old shenanigans, and I will let you know if I find anything else cool here. Okay, another update about this particular map. So, not only is there one Amazon over there, there's actually a basic soldier there as well, giving us 2 more types of coverage, potentially under different circumstances, and also, because they're warrior units, that means this gives us, like, finisher access out the wazoo, so again, we basically have all the elemental coverage we're gonna need. So, for now, I'm gonna pick up maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these guys, and just kind of keep them around. I know that we'll end up getting better ones down the road, but right now, because of the fact that this map is completely safe, should have hit that guy with the shield. Because of the fact that this map is pretty much completely safe, we can just sort of grind stuff out with no issues. It's really going to be the pitfall map, so we want to try and avoid as much as possible. Now, unfortunately, since we have done some retreats, it just occurred to me that we probably won't be able to do the a losser fight. I think once once we complete this whole thing, I want to see if they can beat the losser fight. Either way, that's an adventure for another time. But for the time being, though, this is looking real good. And also, because of the fact that these guys have meditate, and in a lot of cases have more effective type coverage from their finishers than anything else, that's kind of why they're going for stuff like pressure whirl, because they're just able to nuke these things with the physical advantage over their magical one. Because, again, magic doesn't scale very high, finishers do, so against squishier enemies, those finishers are going to be showing better numbers. Either way, I was excited that there were 2 different elements of different units here, as well as I totally forgot that there was a whip in the inventory. So, free shipping over there is going to be running whips for us, which gives us an answer to any fire units. Again, I'm really hoping that it's not going to become as specific as needing a specific counter, but for the time being, it's good to have those options potentially available. So yeah, we've basically unlocked rings, we've unlocked multiple different elements, and it's looking real solid right now. The main problem with trying to recruit these warrior units, though, is just that they hit hard. Like last timer, I wasn't actually sure if she'd be able to even be recruited, just due to the fact that she kept hitting for about the same amount that I was healing, and the archer was pushing that over. So in this particular case, it's looking like we might be able to recruit maybe one or two. It's not guaranteed that we'd be able to get them both. They definitely won't be as easy to pick up as the last two, because, you know, a caster or archer or something like that, you get them cornered with some pretty decent armor, and really that's about all she wrote on that one. You don't need to do anything further. If I can land a poison on them and leave about one tile of wiggle room, then should only be facing one of them at once, can do damage to both of them at once while not actually attacking anything, and that's kind of our way to go right there. Because again, we can basically heal for 230 for the time being, and can't do anything more than that, although if it's going to end up looking like that right there, I wouldn't mind hiring another bird. Because getting access to another flying fencer could potentially be beneficial. I didn't pick up any, or that many living ones here. So if it's going to be like that, if he's going to get himself injured, if I'm going to be cornered with 2 units... I mean, both of these warrior units are really low loyalty, though. So it's probably going to be worth trying to get both of them. Either way, this is looking very positive. I'm liking the developments I'm seeing on this map. There's a lot of potential options playing out in front of our eyes. You really don't want to get poisoned, do you? Do you want to just join? Because that would be a lot easier. No? Alright, well, worth a shot, you know? Gotta... Sometimes you just gotta throw the request out there. If it happens, it happens. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so, kind of accidentally finished the map. Oh well, we'll find more. Alright, so technically there's some higher recruitables that we could get here in an earth element, but I kind of want to see how these zombies just kind of do on their own for the time being. Because if they're going to keep going up every level, I don't want to sit here for the next half a year, and they seem to be doing the job well enough as is. But yeah, just keep a look at that turn timer on the very bottom. Should give you a general idea in terms of how dang quick these guys can be, because pretty much immediately before that entire bar is done filling up, we should already see. Yeah, you can already see the first of the casters already starting to get their turns again, because they have no pence, they have no gloves, and they also have no RT cost on their attacks. They're pretty darn quick. Ooh, apparently, hang on. Apparently I have not set these guys on AI yet. Okay, whatever. Distance Striker for you. You do that. Basically, these guys are here to throw out Brimstone Hails and or get targeted by things. It doesn't really particularly matter. They're just doing something. They're shooting, they're dropping finishers. They're generally just going to be attacking with a different type of attack. That's really their only purpose here. If they knock stuff backwards, great. If they knock stuff around, great. If they end up blocking things, great. But realistically, they're still putting out pressure, so that's what matters. Even if they only knocked stuff back, they would still be worth keeping there. But either darn ways... I probably should have invested in more longbows, but whatever. Crossbows got the big booms. I mean, really just whatever's convenient. Free shipping is just over there to get some experience with her whips. Because, yeah, these guys, I'm pretty sure there's no way that they're getting wiped out. But either way, I will be back to let you know if they did. I have to go get some stuff done, so we'll see if they're... Okay, buy stuff on my desk. We'll see if they're done clearing out this map by the time I'm back. Okay, so last attempt didn't go terribly well. Well, I say it didn't go terribly well. They did actually accomplish some gains. I would say they got about 2/3 of the way in. But then they started getting overwhelmed. But it was... So I ran this test a couple of times, and it was still very possible for them to win this. So I went ahead and adjusted a few things. Because there is specifically a mechanic that Rakes discovered in the PSP version that appears to still exist here in the Reborn version, wherein we might be able to actually take advantage of something very stupidly oddly specific to maybe make some progress here. Namely, DP1 and DP2 here are going to be given our HP leeching abilities. Whereas the MP leech has been thrown on everybody else as a backup move in case they can't use their avalanche. Why does this matter? That sounds stupid. Well, basically it turns out there is a weirdly specific mechanic in which there's essentially a 1 RT penalty to any unit hit by a leech move for whatever friggin' reason. Now, the thing is, they were very close when they were going through the first couple of times here. They were very close to reaching that kind of critical mass point where they managed to kill off just enough living units to be able to come back. They were only getting very barely outsped. So if we have a couple of units dedicating themselves to just delay tactics the whole time, using cheap slowdown moves, then this actually might be just what we need to make this happen. Again, a lot of damage on this map in particular will be coming from those poison tiles, so potentially they still will be doing damage and causing a little bit of slowdown in the meantime, which I'm hoping will be just enough to make this happen. As much as I'd like to be able to go and recruit that archer in the back, because they're now coming in with siege bows, which would be pretty major in terms of upgrades, or at least they usually do, this one hasn't. Unfortunately, I think we're going to have to look for a bit of an easier get, because that one, I don't think we'll reasonably be able to keep Denim out of harm's way for this one. Just because this initial push that they're doing off to the edge oftentimes gets itself overwhelmed by the time the zombie dragons get close, because again, we're all just kind of winning using the bacteria strategy here. It's not necessarily going to be something that'll do very much for somebody like Denim that can't currently fly. Once we do unlock flight rings, which, they're not the longest way down, once we unlock either flight or warp abilities for him, then we can move him somewhere safe, and then just kind of have him last it out. Right now, the only real option would be the usual kind of solo spot over there on the right, around that corner, kind of in that little nook there, which would effectively disable most of their unit types. The dragons shouldn't be using their big AoE booms. The rogues and such wouldn't be able to reach with their knives. They would be able to reach with Sprogmos through the wall, but that's plink. Either way, though, 230 per round is not going to be enough regeneration to keep him alive. So we're not going to try that approach just yet, but we're just going to see if the slowdown by itself is going to be enough to make it happen. I haven't tested out the other map yet. Well, that is to say, I haven't fully tested it out. Based off initial impressions, I don't think it's terribly realistic at this second. And again, we can't currently get pumpkins even if we do get to floor 13. Without going back to Farampa and getting more marks to get more warlocks, but I'm hoping that won't necessarily be an issue, because there's a lot of different spawns that come in for floors 1, 2, and 3 when you come back for the generic versions of the fight, so I'm hoping that we'll actually have a few more tools on hand once we come back and do those. Additionally, we might actually be able to skip all of that, because there's, again, a necromancer here in this first 25 floors as well, which can be recruited, so that will be another potential option. I believe he does come guaranteed with Banish, so honestly, getting him would be both a strategic option and a completely necessary one. As far as managing to get that far, well, it's hard to say. It actually might be completely necessary for completing that map in particular, because that's also the one that has a lot of zombie Cyclops and stuff like that on there, so it's going to be a rough one. But again, we'll get to that particular bridge when we get there. As it stands, again, you can kind of see what I'm getting. Oh, shoot, that is a crescent. Okay, we can already get crescents. In that case, shoot, I wasn't misremembering. We should be farming this map. Okay, I thought I misremembered. That's actually huge. Yeah, we can swap out all of the zombie longbows at this point for crescents, have them train on this map, farm more crescents. Huh, alright. Definitely worth doing. Okay, because yeah, as it stands, you can see, like, it's just enough to kind of let them get to that point of getting almost through the whole fight here. There's enough poison tiles to just kind of passively do damage. We can get kills on a lot of their living units, but right now we have confirmation of a drop that I want, so we're just going to be using this team in particular. This strategy seems to be working. I feel like that'll be enough to keep constantly kind of farming out additional units this way. Ooh, and actually we got a siege bow, which is kind of a big get at this point. I know it doesn't seem like much, but again, it's kind of a big deal here. So go ahead and swap out infinite HP here for a siege bow, and while it is lower, bear in mind her bow skill is currently a 1, so this is actually going to be a little bit higher. And we're actually going to go ahead and replace probably DP2 here. Actually, no, we need DP2. Maybe Acid Snake. Why the hell don't I just put the bow on him, actually? Why? I don't know why I'm... You know what? Let's just go ahead and use her. Whatever. Put infinite HP in here. She's got slightly better numbers, I think. We'll replace in Acid Snake as needed. But yeah, this feels like the way to go. So I'm thinking I get the whole team some percents. This is probably going to take a bit of a hot minute. But yeah, basically, as soon as we run into a relic, I'm not going to bother going to check the drop guides. Like, floors 1 to 25 in general just drop an absolute shitload of, like, little random relics. So, for example, things like Resents, things like the Water Ring. I think you can get a Spark Guard Ring. I think some Spark Guard Boots. Which, if we can get Spark Guard Boots, that basically would be best in slot leg wear for anyone at this point, because of the high vitality bonus on those. Which, I mean, it is basically like ballpark. I think it's situationally, I want to say it's like 10% damage reduction or something like that versus dragons. But then physically, it's something like 2.5%, I think, from that 5 vitality on there. It's situational. Point being, it gives more armor. That's kind of what we're looking at here. So, actually, wait a frickin' second. I just realized something. I was wondering why another guy didn't get training before. Are these guys not... Oh, wait, they do get training. Okay, I think zombies get slower training on their weapons. Because, yeah, I couldn't help but notice that a guy that I could swear I've seen swing a knife before had no experience for some reason, and wasn't sure what that was about. I assumed maybe I just misremembered, but anyway. So, I'm just going to leave him at this until we have at least a few zombies rearmed. Like, the Crescent is not a... I think it's going to be like a 10, 15, something, whatever, attack bonus over the Siege Bow. But it is going to be the best longbow that we have available, and technically the best ranged weapon that we can get until we start getting some relic crossbows in. Because we're not using shops, we won't be able to upgrade it to charm bows, but that would have been really ideal if we could. I mean, technically speaking, I think Bow and Sheridian drops somewhere in, like, the floor 30s or something like that, but again, we're not allowing shops for the purpose of this one, otherwise the answer would be way too obvious of just go get Starfall, and that sorts out all our problems. Just spam Starfall to floor 100, which, that's boring. You know what, I want to do this the dumb way. But either way, that'll be that for this update. See you in the next one. There we go, there's the first one. Okay, so I only ended up getting one of the actual bows because, well, I kind of had a phone call and I walked away and, they actually won. This suck method actually worked. Alright, cool. So, it turns out when you know, we're just not even gonna, we're not gonna go down that particular road. Okay, let's see what else is actually available then. Do we have anything new to recruit down here? Because, I mean, I feel like there's definitely at least some. Because yeah, they still got the zombies down there. We're not really gonna reach those. Realistically, this is a map that I kind of wanted a lot of longbows for, because realistically, longbows, tremendous shot, that's a lot of insta-kills down there. And then for everybody else, there's wizards. So anyway, back to it. I'll just clear out this map real quick and we'll see what else we can get a hold of. I was just a little bit surprised to see that they actually won that. So surprisingly, that's a success, and of all things, there's actually a Spark Guard in the pocket now too. So that's certainly an unexpected little happy, not even accident, just kind of happy discovery there. Alright, moving on, I suppose. Okay, so this is going to be kind of the moment of truth here, because there's a couple of things that I want to know. Basically, 10 is going to be 10 to 13. These are going to be the ones that make the biggest difference here, because if we take a look, this is probably the one that you may recognize as the one that might have given you a lot of trouble up to this point. This is where ideally, later on down the line, we'll be coming back to get pumpkins if we really, really need them. Like, honestly, in many ways, if we can get undead pumpkins, that would be... I don't even think we can recruit the undead ones, but either way, we'd want at least some pumpkins as exorcists. again, ideally, we'll see if there's any other solutions available. Do you come with exorcism by chance? Oh, that is a unit with exorcism. Okay, no, forget the pumpkin strategy. In that case, we're going to make this a denim map. That's unexpected, but we'll go ahead and do that. In that case, we'll... yeah, we're not going to want to retreat, but we are going to want to see how they do here. So, we know that they can spawn an exorcist here. This must be one of the only times that they can actually spawn an exorcism. So that's pretty handy. In fact, I probably shouldn't have even brought the zombies at all. I probably should have saved the human units for this one. But I'm going to see if I can run Denim down over that direction, see if we can maybe just go and... I don't know, maybe we'll just be able to go get that cleric over there. It's a plan. I can't say that it's going to be the perfect plan, but it's going to be a plan all the same. So this actually might be the only cleric that runs exorcism throughout the Palace of the Dead, because I'm trying to think of any other time when I've ever seen one, unless they got patched in at some point. But one thing that you may notice here is that we are suddenly a lot less powerful here. Essentially, these guys are going to be running 33s to, I think, 34s. These guys are all coming in at 39. All these enemy units, that is. So we're going to try to make our way over there. If it happens, it happens. I, again, have no real guarantee that this is something that can happen, but if we can make it over there, that would work. I think I can run Denim over there if we run all human units, so that probably will be worth a shot at some point. If we're running zombies, I mean, in many ways, I feel like the zombies are probably more precious than the human units at this point. So I'd rather sacrifice several of them, since they can't be exercised, and we can probably at least have a chance to do the recruit before they get a chance to bleed out. So that probably would be the safer bet when trying to recruit this cleric over here. I want to say I've seen a male cleric that spawns closer to that top corner of the map on the PSP version, so it is possible that that's there as well. So that's potentially something to consider. I wouldn't expect that this cleric would attempt to get very close, but if we can get any exorcism at all, that does actually give us a huge thing that we didn't have previously. Not to mention also I can kind of guarantee that we don't lose it by finally going and converting Denim into a cleric at that point. If we can get a movement up item, then we really wouldn't be losing much of anything at that point. But really I just need to be able to run him over there. He doesn't have any of his free casts at the moment. I'm not going to burn that pumpkin. If we need it for some kind of strategy down the road, I do have at least one pumpkin that I've used, or that I've gotten a hold of at this point. So that'll be potentially an option. But yeah, we might not need the pumpkins. It would, or the living pumpkins, that is. It would be cool if they were acquired, because obviously they're a hit and an exorcism, so if we get a Magus Mark, I'll be circling back to pick up one of them. But it would be really cool if we didn't need them, and actually, the difference between 33 and 39 doesn't seem to be showing itself very much right now. They're not really doing too much more. And this is actually one of those, this is probably a good telling moment right here, where it's probably worth discussing the, how much of a difference stats might actually make in this version. Just because, like, the stats are always relative. In many cases, they get held up as the end-all, be-all, but they're really a lot more relative than it seems. And in this case, it's going to be noticeable. It's like, 20, 30, up to 40, depending on what kind of damage source we're talking about. But still, unless somebody's, like, severely deficient in a particular department, it really isn't going to be as noticeable. That right there is going to matter a decent bit. Oh, well, they stole our glass pumpkins. How rude. Well, actually, I think that was their guy that got knocked into the bag. I didn't actually see, but anyway, I think it's their bag. I don't think we'll have to worry about the exorcism here currently. At least it's not looking like it. He hasn't rolled his conserve at this point because, it never quite wants to roll when you need it to roll. Well, I'm just kidding. It tends to roll all the friggin' time, but it's just one of those little mind goblin type of situations that it never quite wants to be ready at that exact moment that you want to do something very specific. But I'm thinking it's probably worth recruiting a few units on this map as possible. Ideally, I need at least one because I want to test something. Because when we leave and come back, I don't know if we actually would be able to potentially go back to Farampa and spawn 39s there. I think we can, but I'm not really sure. I haven't tested it up to this point. I feel like, at least in post-game, you can spawn higher levels there. But at this point, again, I don't know for sure if, since we're in Chapter 4, if we're still in level cap territory, if it'll actually allow that to happen. Again, I feel like it will, but that way we would be able to replace our zombie hawks with stronger ones. Not to mention stronger ones potentially running worm scale, and that's where the big difference would come in, if we can get them just rocking better armor. Because right now their armor is just basic brigandines, which is adequate for Chapter 4, but it's adequate for Chapter 4 is the problem. It's not really too great for stuff after that. So we'll just go ahead and speed up here. I'm really just going to attempt to take one swing at the cleric and hope that the recruit happens. I don't expect this fight to last longer than that, because I'd really rather not risk the exorcism here. Okay, yeah, they're going for the major heal again, thankfully. So actually, well, I guess we're actually doing okay with the zombies at this point. They don't, like, I know Banish they love to spam, but I guess Exorcism, they're just not really feeling it. Especially when they can drop such big numbers with major heal. Because again, due to the fact that we have no armor on these guys, they've got no resistance going on against the spells that are hitting them. So the AI is just being like, I can hit 600 plus right now. So that's interesting. Okay, when's Denham's next turn coming up? Pretty soonish. I mean, these guys are doing okay. They're not dead yet, so that's a plus. Everything on this map is living, so if we can create a situation where we're just going and farming a bunch of equipment, it actually might be worth farming this map. The risk is, of course, getting exercised, but, I mean, currently they just seem to be obsessing over using healing spells for offense and burning through MPs, so that's kind of a big deal. Alright, so that's good. By any chance, do one of those units want to move, or are we seriously just going to do this body blocking thing? Like, this is one of those moments where you can tell the AI is actually doing a pretty good job of being aware of choke points. It's just not always completely able to do that. So, like, right here, they effectively made a wall around the unit that they're trying to protect. They do this more often than they get credit for, to be honest. But anyway, we're going to try to circle around here, try to avoid picking up that crit card. I'm specifically taking that tile, hoping to be... Like, I was hoping to take that tile where the crit card is, or where the Amazon is, but unfortunately it's not really going to happen right now. I wanted to be able to shield bash and run up and, you know, go for the recruit, but oh well. We do have extra units in case we really need to, you know, sacrifice a unit to get a hold of that exorcism. But we do have ways to make it work for now. So we'll see at that point. And really, while the jump from like 30 to 39 isn't going to be like the most major jump in the world, it's still going to be noticeable enough that it's worth doing. Alright, let's go ahead and attempt to go for the recruit here. Realistically, this is going to be like no %, so whatever. But I think I'll just cut it to when there's actually an opportunity. Now, do I want to cut it right now? Maybe not. We'll see if she actually goes for the exorcism here. I'm thinking she actually might, and that's a little bit dangerous. With any luck, some of them will immediately come back onto their feet, and... See, here's the thing. The AI tends to be very tempted to exercise the moment that they're sitting at 1 left. Is that what's going to happen here? Alright, please go for the cleric. Okay, she is going for the cleric. The knockback would have been ideal. Do we retreat now, or do we risk it? Because she's in pretty good recruit odds territory right now. 1 hit plus recruit is going to see us at about 20-30ish% depending on her loyalty, which currently is... let's see here. Yep, so they're low loyalty. Yeah, they did go for the exorcism. That's a shame, but whatever. We'll make do. Oh, you ass. Alright, whatever. It's killed off one of our fencers. Oh, shoot! They're exercising a bunch of them, because, yeah, Crystal Pumpkin. Definitely worth considering here. Okay, well, either way, we'll attempt 1 recruit, and then we'll have to attempt this with human units if this 1 recruit doesn't succeed. Potentially might be seeing another unit lost to that Crystal Pumpkin in a moment. No, they're way the hell down there. Yeah, Crystal Pumpkin probably can do the job pretty well. Alright, so can we... okay, we're 1 point short of being able to Vile Wound it, so... basic attack, hopefully that does the job. 10%. You want to join? No. Okay, we're going to give it one more shot. He's still quickened at the moment. Even if we end up losing some more units, we can replace them. Basically, if we get her, potentially that improves our odds of doing a lot of particular things. So I'm just really hoping that we can make these kind of losses worth it at this point. I mean, it's not really sunk cost fallacy when this is already going to take forever, and we already plan to replace many of them. A little bit worried about that mute dart because I believe that actually would prevent him from recruiting. So hopefully not the case. Okay, so they're going to go for that one. They don't have any crystals available right now. His turn's coming up soon. Alright. I don't know exactly who he lost. I believe it was one of the, just the sword guy. So we lost a sword, we lost a BOS, we lost missile ability, nothing that can't be replaced. I think he was one of the ones with a ring, though. So that's not great, but oh well. Potentially we got some additional items, though. Let's see, how low can you get? 285, this will be 300 something. Do it. And we took an additional 10 there. Please work. Alright, one more attempt. See if we can make it that long. Because they should still be going after the zombies. Like, if this wasn't such a major deal, I wouldn't be willing to sacrifice so many units for this, but it is what it is. Alright, that sucks. Alright, let's retreat out of here. I'm going to attempt to set this up again with a different team. How the hell many did we lose? Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that was just one of our wizards died. I think we lost 2, right? Zombies left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, we lost 2. Alright. Whatever. We'll, let's regroup and then reattempt this. You know, there are those cases where you really appreciate the attention to detail, and other cases when you really don't. And this right here is definitely one of them. You cannot recruit people while silenced. I mean, this on the receiving end, this is understood, but it's also on the kind of outgoing end here as well. So that's always fun. Anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, we got her. Now then, we could, technically speaking, continue on where we were, but why exactly does this cleric matter so much? Well, obviously, exorcism is fantastic to get a hold of, but at the same time, you know, it's way the hell better. The fact that she is a dramatically higher level than everybody else, which means that the game is forced to scale up these maps, which also carries with it the nice little side benefit that now we get access to Damascus armor. So this basically means that we can skip 2 gears of equipment at this point, just go all the way to Damask plate and stuff like that. And on top of that, we can go ahead and get ourselves a bunch of new, stronger units. Namely, a bunch of new, you know, maxed out zombies and such. And I could go back and, you know, get all of these wizardly type of dudes and whatever else, which, you know, we'll go back and we'll get some of those. But the real important one is to go back for those additional fencers back in the Feral Coast. Because better fencers, better archers, we're going to be seeing a lot better results. Eventually, I want to be able to, well, I actually need to replace the Terror Knights too. They kind of came down with a bad case of dead, unfortunately. We kind of ran into a bit of a sad situation where I completely forgot that the Terror Knight was a zombie, brought her in, and she ended up getting completely annihilated by just a bunch of pumpkins. So, you know, that was a sad time. And almost ended up losing the Felks that she was carrying at the same time, but still, we're going to go ahead and get better ones at this point. And then at that point, we can actually just go ahead and get rid of the old, you know, keeping some at like 29 or so strategy. And we can go ahead and run every one of those at 39, but remove their pants and gloves to make them more tempting targets, still allowing for shielding denim in that process. I know some of this stuff sounds, again, like, you know, crazy crackpot nonsense, but just bear with me on this one. It's it's a trick that I've been kind of working on for years at this point. It's helped out on a lot of runs. It's a thing that works. But either way, at this point, we're going to go ahead and rebuild the team and come back with some absolutely meaty units at this point. And actually, they're pretty much going to be maxed out for POTD as well. Like, this is going to be the big team build. Because it maxes out at 40. That last level really is not going to make too much of a difference. We can probably get some better units down the road, but again, it's going to be a slight difference. Really, it's the equipment jump that's going to be the biggest kind of point of note here. And yeah, we'll continue on at that point. I'll see you then.